Okay, rolling on the show. 1, 2, 3. Let's go back in history. Welcome to Roast Mortem. It's the finest show, the only show worth quoting on any of your thesis papers. My name is Tom.
I'm Travis.
That pause was for lack of mic, because I'm Connor.
Get in the mic.
Get in the mic, because we don't
we
have
got-
mic.
We have 3 mics here, 3 microphones.
3 mics, no Michael.
This is an improvement from last week.
Yeah.
Last week we did Selfridges, which you missed.
I know. I saw. I heard. I'm bummed I didn't get to hear about this guy.
Yeah. Well, you can go back, but I don't recommend it.
All right.
I don't honestly recommend our show to anyone. How's that sound?
Yeah, no, except if you're trying to write a research paper
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
If you need it.
on any subject.
Guys, subject, week. Connor, how's your week?
Well, the reason I missed Selfridges was because I was sick this past week. Started with a cold. Stayed there. Just a cold.
No COVID, nothing?
No. Lizzie had it first, and she tested negative 2 or 3 times. I tested negative. Both of us were home a couple of days from work. And then on Saturday, the Green Bay Packers proceeded to rip my soul out of my body by losing in very embarrassing fashion. Ooh. And that's the end of sports talk.
So were you
we're
there
moving
just
on.
like were you there just like sniffling on your couch like with like a big cheese hat on?
No, I was laying on the floor of my sister's guest bedroom, 4 beers deep, just staring off into space as various people came into the room and said, "Are you okay?" And I just grumbled, and then they would leave.
The cheese hat was on though, right?
No. I was wearing my Reggie White jersey, though.
You know what I do like about the Packers cheese hat thing is that have you ever worn one?
Yes, of course.
I like how at least the one I had, and I'm pretty sure my cousin got it from Wisconsin.
You just like cheese.
You turned it over, and then you can put your beers and like dip and shit in the hat,
so
and then
nice.
put it on your
you
head.
Flip it over. There's the main head part is just like you could put the chips bowl in there, and then there are 3 pockets on each corner that can fit either like a beer mug perfectly or a dipping sauce.
Wow.
So you just flip it over, and it's like bowl of chips, guac, salsa, hot queso, or you can
And you
do,
just flip
like,
it right back
3
up on your
beers
head.
and throw it back on. Yeah.
That's what keeps me interested in sports. It's the food.
Yep.
Yeah,
think
more
that's-
hats need places for dips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tartar sauce.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So
Tom,
Travis,
how was your week?
Oh.
No, I like that Connor asked you.
Well, my week, man, I've just been a busy little boy. Nothing really to report here. I got my Viking jewelry on.
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
You look like you're ready to go burn down a monastery.
yeah. It's got some runes on here. The runes say, "Baby girl, give me shrimp. I love it, dog. Give me that
I don't
shrimp."
believe you at all.
Yeah,
Does it
I'm
have
reading
space
it.
for that much runage?
There's a lot of runage. These are size 15 rings. I got fat fingers,
That
so
is
I
a
can
very
fit all
big
that.
finger. That is up there.
This is a max size, but
A
they
lot of-
fit.
A lot of room for runes.
Wait, why do Viking rings have a max size?
Because in Scandinavia, they finger bind people, like the Chinese,
Yeah.
right?
It's their
You
kink.
know, when their little babies come out and they finger bind them.
They're like those straw hands.
Yeah,
All right, so you have rings now. So
Yeah.
you got that going for you. What else?
that's pretty much it, dude. I just got rings and I've been ringing around. Not much.
Okay,
Been a busy boy,
good.
cutting a lot of cosmetic videos.
Very nice.
All right, that's good. My week. It started off with a disappointment, but also a sign from possibly the gods or a god, whatever you think. I don't know.
Woden.
I was waiting on a book to come in for a future roast. I'll say it because I don't believe in secrets anymore. George
right.
C. Scott. We're going to be doing a 2-parter on him in the future. And as I waited for this book, anxiously, checking my phone nonstop, I could not wait to dive into this biography. So when it comes in the mail, you wouldn't be surprised if when I opened it, I find the autobiography of Betty White.
Oh,
Whoa!
Now, that bitch just died.
there we go. Hot off
Did
the
you order
press.
this? You ordered this book before she died?
Yeah, like the day before.
What?
So I think we should roast that geriatric slut in the
Yeah.
future. I
Yeah,
think
dog.
it would be a good idea because,
You're right. It's a sign from God or gods.
yeah, exactly. And the amount
Yeah.
of stuff you see online about how much everyone likes this woman, I don't believe it.
No.
She's
Nah.
probably haggard.
We can find some dirt.
Yeah. So
Well,
I'm going
yeah,
to look into that. I can't make any promises, but I'm letting you know she's on my radar. I don't feel the same way as you. I'm not sad she died. She was 99 years old.
Yeah.
I'm glad she's dead. She's been a drain on the system for the last 15 years. Okay?
Yeah. She's been stealing from Social Security.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
absolutely.
let's get the IRS on her.
Yeah.
Actually, fuck the IRS. Let's just kill whoever she knows or something like that. Without further ado, though, we should go back in history.
That's right.
Connor, what are we doing?
We are doing Alfred Krupp.
That's a strong name.
Yes.
Well,
it is
that
a
a
very
guy that makes
strong-
coffee?
He does not make coffee. Although I wouldn't be surprised if one of his products was once used in the production of coffee.
Oh, because it has a Krupp's coffee maker.
Yeah. Now, Krupp was a steel man, and if you don't like the military-industrial complex, this is the guy you can blame. He is the father of the military-industrial complex, one of the founders of modern Germany as well,
Okay.
and just an all-around weird dude.
I like weirdos.
Yeah.
I don't like the military that much.
Well, you're not going to like him then, because he's a weirdo military guy.
I'm not going to say, I'm not going to assume that much right off the bat. I'm going to assume that it was different back then. You know, like, I like old Hollywood. I don't like new Hollywood,
That's fair.
you know, so I'm trying to keep an open mind.
I think. Wait, so we're talking olden times. We're talking about like bayonets and shit, right? And we're talking about sabers. We're talking about basically metal dildos that people hit each other on horses.
Well, that's how he started, but he would be
All right.
building cannon by the end of his life. So there's only one logical starting point. We're going to do some background before we get to who Alfred is, because you got to set the stage. And the only place I could think of to start is the Carboniferous period of the Paleozoic era, roughly 300 to 360 million years ago. That's where we're going to start our story. Because during that period, there were huge amounts of organic matter that did not decompose because there were no organisms that existed that could process the decay of wood and other plants. What did that lead to?
Oil.
Coal.
Oh, all right. Never
And
mind.
oil. But coal
Wait,
for this story.
Wait, you roasting like rocks and shit on this show? You roasting like fire rocks?
We're starting
What
with
are you
fire
doing
rocks.
here?
This is a Pokemon episode.
Because it was those coal deposits that were created all those millions of years ago that created the coal seam that runs along northern Europe from England across into the Low Countries and into the Ruhr Valley of Germany, which is where our story will take place.
I like that term, the coal seam.
Yeah.
It sounds dirty,
Yeah.
Now,
like coal. Coal is very
dirty.
dirty.
we're going to talk a lot about how dirty coal gets and how no one wants to be around dirty coal. It's just gross. Sooty, gets everywhere,
Yeah.
stains your clothes.
Too many racists around it. A lot of blackface. Too easy to do.
Yeah. So, who are the Krupps? Well, the Krupps are an ancient family. Our first recording history of them is in the 1600s in the city of Essen. And Essen is where they will stay throughout the next 400 years of the family's dynasty legacy, I guess.
Isn't Essen eat?
Is it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's like has eaten.
I did not look up the name of what Essen is, the etymology.
I took a little German, and I know I know Essen is something related to eating or have.
Well, when I went to Berlin, I essen some really good chicken at a restaurant.
no surprise.
Well, we know that the first Krupp definitely liked to eat because all German wealthy merchants at the time, which is what this first Krupp was, we wouldn't know who he was if he wasn't rich. Wasn't a rich merchant. All these German merchants loved to eat. That was like the sign that you were wealthy. Was if you had enough food to eat, you could just get real fat.
Right.
So that was like the goal in life, was to be like, I'm rich. I'm going to be fatter than everyone around me.
I mean, I can respect that because it meant something. Now, if you're overweight, it means you have self-control problems.
I don't know. I think it might mean that you're a very successful, smart person that might just have a lot of power and money.
You're
that
biased.
you've invested.
You're
no,
biased.
No, Tom. That you've invested in places like Taco Bell, in McDonald's. You're investing in the company when you consume their products. You see how it works.
I don't know. Jeff Bezos is jacked now, so I don't know how well this holds up anymore.
Well, I'm just saying Jeff Bezos, he just has more money so he can liquefy his McDonald's into syringes and then inject them straight into his body.
I actually do
So he doesn't
believe
have
that.
to digest them.
I won't accept your first point. I will debate that, but the second part,
because
I get
he lipos all the fat and he stores it in one of his fulfillment centers.
Connor, please
just
stop
so he
us.
can show how fat he is.
Connor,
All right.
stop this.
We haven't even gotten to Alfred yet, so hold on.
Okay.
Because Alfred is going to be a rich asshole, and he's going to be gaunt and look like a stick figure that is haunting children's dreams.
like me last year.
Yeah, but thinner and with white hair, even though you're 30.
Wow.
Yeah. So, about these early Krupps, they were very rich. Essen was an industrial city, but small at the time. We know that they ran like a storefront and had land holdings, and that was where they got their wealth from. In the 1640s, we found out that they sold a few musket barrels. Now, this was probably because like the local government administration was like, hey, you can make steel, make us some gun barrels. And they're like, okay. Because that's how arms production used to work. It used to be governments would go find people to build them their weapons.
Yeah.
Nowadays, companies build weapons and then go around to governments to sell it to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Alfred Krupp is the reason that happened.
Really?
Oh, he's that dick.
He's that guy.
Every single weapon fought with on the American side in the Revolutionary War was a privately owned weapon.
Yes.
There was not a single government, even the cannons.
Yeah, and that'll all change once we get to Alfred. But we're not up to Alfred yet. The Krupp family at one point was probably the most powerful family in all of Essen, once being described as the uncrowned kings of the city. However, they had this tradition where they would always give all of the money and all of the estate to the oldest son. That way it would never like split up like generation to generation.
Smart.
Smart, but if you got a big dummy, it might all go away. You
You
know?
got to kill your oldest son.
Yeah, so you got to kill your oldest son if he's not very good. In the late 18th century, so now we're into the 1700s, the Krupp family matriarch, Helene Emily Krupp, she's kind of the one running the show. I think it was because she was the oldest daughter of the previous oldest son, and he didn't have any sons, so he's like, all right, you do it, marry someone, but it'll still be her kind of controlling everything.
She's steel lady.
Yeah, and she starts buying up ironworks and coal mines in the area, because this is now when people are like, oh, all that coal that's around Essen, that might be worth something one day, because we're like in this very early stages of the Industrial Revolution.
Do we know? I mean, so people were burning coal long before that, right? They used that shit to just heat their houses.
Yeah.
but they didn't know that if you put it in a contraption, then you could make power like that.
Yeah, and they used it for like smelting iron and stuff, but it wasn't refined. I wish I'd learned more about how steel is made, because that's a key part of the story.
Well,
Next week, Connor's going to be roasting steel.
Yeah.
reinventing the steel.
All right, so Helene kind of sets the stage for this upswing again in the Krupp family fortune. This is now during the time of Napoleon, and she's just a competent lady getting shit done. Her grandson is Friedrich, and he's an idiot. Just a real dummy that doesn't really know what to do. That's kind of all that needs to be said about his smarts. Just kind of stupid.
His smarts. Yeah.
And he was the one in line to inherit all the wealth. And when Helene died, that's exactly what happened. And Friedrich kind of always was just like jumping from one quick cash scheme to the next, thinking that it would be like his big break, and it never ever was.
He obviously has never heard of crypto.
No. He would have probably put all of his money not into like Dogecoin or Bitcoin or Ethereum, but like some random weird one that he heard of one day and was like, I'll put it all into that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Safe Moon.
Safe Moon.
This
He
guy-
would have put his
no.
house in Safe Moon.
This guy is definitely like investing in like mushroom medicine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
God damn it, Paul.
This guy was a
Stamets.
big Theranos backer, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Friedrich's now in control. Now, around this time, again, during the time of Napoleon, cast steel is basically viewed as like nuclear fission of the time. The people who were actually making steel, it's almost the way the book I was reading almost described it as like a family recipe, where it's like it's a mix of like, yes, you know what to put in it, but then also kind of just like the feel of it, and then like, oh, the smell and the color as it's like smelting, and like knowing when to do this.
It's like my chili. No one's going to be able to make my chili because I know just the right amount of peppers to put in there. I know just the right of salts and sausage meats.
But then you also know, like, when you're stirring, you know exactly, like, what kind of bubbles you want. Like, oh, those bubbles are a little too big. Let me turn it down a little.
I like to move on, but quickly, as a note to Travis's chili, no one should want his chili. It's not very good. It
What are
tastes
you
like
talking
toothpaste.
about?
Continue.
I'm gonna
This
step
might
back
the
from
best
that.
chili in the world. You got to wait until the steam turns black in the pot.
Connor,
and then
please
you're
move
good.
on.
All right. So, why did the Industrial Revolution start with the English? There's a lot of other reasons, but the fact that they cracked the steel code is a big part of it.
British Steel, man.
Yeah.
Judas Priest, brah.
So they figured out the process for producing what's called cast steel, which is like the high quality, this is the shit you want, primo steel. They hold this monopoly for so long that at that time, it was just called English steel. So you'd have regular steel and then the high quality English steel. Right? We're all following along? Now, Napoleon, while he's fighting everybody in Europe that can fight, he says, I'll offer 4,000 francs if anyone can come up with the formula for producing cast steel.
Is that a lot of money?
At the time, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For like a steel manufacturer, that'd probably be like 3 years budget or something like that.
All right.
No, that's a lot of
Because
money.
4,000 doesn't sound like a lot.
Doesn't sound like a lot. It was a lot back then.
So, like, hey, can you figure out how to crack the stock market? I'll
Yeah.
give you a few $1,000.
That's kind of exactly.
Sounds like a good deal.
Hey, if you can make a backpack nuclear weapon, I'll give you $4,000.
Yeah. Come
How's
on
that
over.
sound?
You can pick it up anytime.
Yeah. Do you have any enriched uranium? I'll give you some scratchers.
Just making sure it's worth it. Okay? Napoleon did all right. He knew how to trade.
So Friedrich, who, again, is going from scheme to scheme, is like, fuck yeah, this is my big break. I'm going to learn how to make cast steel. He knew zero about ironworks and any of that. But he lives in Essen, where there's coal all around. His grandma had bought him a few coal mines that, like, they had just been operating, but, like, laissez-faire kind of thing. And he's like, fuck it, I'm going to make cast steel. I'm going to figure it out. He's never going to figure it out. But it becomes his obsession.
It's like he's never going to figure out my chili.
Yeah.
How hard is it to get, like, an English spy or something?
Well, at this point, Essen, there is no Germany. Essen is just on the border of France, and they're occupied by the French, so there's no chance that the English are going to, they're going to be able to go back and forth with England.
Right. I keep forgetting there's timelines.
Yeah. So he declares his allegiance to Napoleon on the same date that Napoleon's army is being forced to retreat from Moscow. So,
good.
Not great timing. He eventually is digging trenches for the French army during their hasty retreat because they're like, we don't give a shit about steel anymore. We just need men on the front. And he gets conscripted into that. Doesn't go well. Napoleon overthrown. Friedrich goes back to his shop and he starts producing small quantities of steel. These are not the cast steel quality, but it's a step up. And so he opens up a new steelworks in August of 1819. It bankrupts him almost immediately. So he sells the family home and builds a tiny little cottage that's attached to the factory, where the whole family moves.
I love
good.
what.
Yeah.
I feel like we should have more places like that now. Oh wait, we do. It's called Foxconn.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's really about how tall you're going to make the building. Because then you need to start talking about safety. Safety and nets.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah,
it's
the
one
nets.
complex, then there's no jumpers.
Just one
You know,
complex.
one
No
floor.
jumpers.
There were a few problems with this ironworks, though. So obviously back then, it needs to run on a water wheel. This is before we got the steam power. And he built it on a stream that either ran dry and the water wheel didn't reach the water, or it was overflow and would break the water wheel. So it really didn't work almost ever. It was in commission for like a week, and then it'd be out of commission for 3 months, and then it'd be back for 2 days, and then out of commission for a month.
Friedrich sounds retarded.
He's not bad.
This guy sounds like he's probably good.
He's
at nothing.
He's got a great chili.
He's like, yeah. He's retreating into his house.
What are you trying to
He's
say
terrified.
about me, Tom? That I couldn't start a steel mill out of my backyard?
You might be able to start a war, but not a steel mill.
Oh, jeez.
So Friedrich's not doing well. He's a nervous wreck. He has no idea what he's doing. He feels like he's destroyed his family dynasty because he's an idiot. And at the age of 37, he becomes bedridden in the family cottage, just like barking out orders, asking for things. And he dies at age 39 in 1826 of dropsy. He died of dropsy. We mentioned it the other week.
Just chatting about dropsy.
Yeah.
He's just getting all bloated and shit.
Yeah.
Has that Taco Bell flu.
Nancy, do me a favor and cut my skin more. Cut it. See if it'll get the pockets.
So to
That's
everyone,
what they used to do back then, too. They do the cutting shit. They bleed you.
That's what I would do. I mean, every time I pop a pimple, it's just a little cut.
I wouldn't be surprised if he leached himself a little bit. You know? He probably did a little bit of that.
I mean, we were
Imagine
leaching-
how.
This is 1820.
26 is when he died.
Okay, so yeah, that's leech territory.
Yeah, he's in the leech.
Do you think they had public Dr. Pimple Poppers back in the 1800s?
God.
Oh, hear ye. Come and see this giant bubonic pimple I will pop in the streets. All you ladies can watch it as I pop it out of this man's back.
Get up close. Get some spray.
I don't know. Like, they may have had actual problems. You got to remember
That's
that people watch pimple popping videos because there's very little problems now.
That's true.
His stream's running low. That's his problem.
Yeah, that's a real problem.
My stream's low. So, to everyone, it appeared that the Krupp plan of always giving all the wealth and assets to one person had gone poorly, and that the Krupp family was ruined. That was to all but one. Friedrich's eldest son, by the name of Alfred. Yes, that's our subject, Alfred Krupp, because he would eventually change his name from Alfred to Alfred. He watched his father die, went to the funeral, and all he wanted to do the whole time was get back to the factory and go to work. So, now we arrive at our subject. 14 years old.
14 years old.
He's just like, get me back to the factory. Get me back. I don't give a shit about my dad's funeral. I want to go to the factory and get to work.
I don't give a shit about my dad's funeral. I want to play Fortnite.
Yeah. But I want to build the steel that powers Fortnite.
He's already okay in my book.
Yeah. He's a good guy. Well, no, he's not. He's probably
We're talking about military people back then. I mean, I feel like our military is probably fucked because of Fortnite, but, you know.
I would love if our military operated like Fortnite.
Oh, you're going to
jump
build
out
a
of
castle right here.
Jump out of plane, no guns, but with a pickaxe.
We're going to just sprinkle weapons all over the place. Make sure that your hair is colored a certain way and that you're wearing spandex or something.
And do a floss every time you kill an insurgent.
God.
Yeah.
And make sure that you acknowledge Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
If you do a good job, we're going to give you new skin.
Careful now.
All right. So we
That's
don't
dangerous.
Whoa. Yeah, no. Whoa. I didn't mean it that way.
We don't need to go over much of Alfred's life before the time he takes over the Krupp firm. But he was born April 26th, 1812, obviously in Essen. And at 14, he's now the head of the dynasty. He's tall, he's very lanky, and while he was watching his father wither away in a bed for 2 years, all he was thinking was frustration with the man. He was just like, this fucking piece of shit, waste of space.
12 to 14, that's what you're thinking anyway about your dad.
Yeah.
That's what your hormones are telling your hormones are essentially telling you to kill your dad from that age. For the next few years.
It's just like last 100,000 years of human conditioning has like slightly edged it.
Yeah.
But
Or-
it's still there. It's still there.
Or you might be built a little bit differently, and you're thinking about becoming rich, so you eat more. That's was my route. I was like, hey, guess what? I want to be a rich man. Let me spend all of my wages at Wendy's.
Wages. Talking about your wages as an American that's 12 years old. Continue, Connor.
Yes.
All right. So Alfred, as he's called then, we'll get to the point where but I'm just going to call him Alfred. I'll mention when he does switch the name. It's coming soon. He's a man of many contradictions, and he is also maybe the most neurotic man to ever exist. This guy was weird. He, again, is famous for being like the greatest German industrialist of the time. His name is like synonymous with steel production. He was terrified of fire his whole life.
Oh, that's not good.
Petrified of fire, like scared him to death. And he again worked in an ironworks factory.
That'd be like if I worked in at a spider dairy and I had to milk spiders all day because I hate spiders.
It'd be like if I became a librarian despite being afraid of books.
Or unable to read.
Yeah.
Dude.
Afraid of reading.
Like the Page Master. Their books can be scary, dude. That one ugly one that Macaulay Culkin hung out with.
It would be
You
like
guys don't know
me
what Page
being,
is that?
I was going to say, that is a fun movie.
Yeah.
It took me a second. I was thinking, I don't know. It's like me now, actually, in reality, having no money and being Jewish to an extent. It's
Are you afraid of the money?
It's not that I just haven't obtained it in steady amounts.
Yeah. All right.
You know, I'm just not comfortable with my finances now. I need to tack on a couple more of these thousands of shekels.
Tom, you gotta invest in more tiny hats. I don't see you in tiny hats that often. Or
Yeah,
paella. That's a
What?
soup.
Paella is a food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiny hat, I get the yarmulke thing, yes. You're talking about payas.
you know when they slap paella on their face, the little shrimps that hang off of the side of the head.
Well, not only are shellfish heathen food or secular
This is why I don't
food.
like religion. This is why I don't like religion. I'm just saying.
It's
Don't worry,
confusing.
Alfred's an atheist.
Tell us more about
Okay,
Alfred. I
smart
like
man.
him still.
Smart
by the
man.
way.
Yeah, he can eat bacon.
Well,
he can
we're about
eat
to get
camarones.
to
Don't
maybe
matter.
the best part about Alfred. He found all different types of smells intriguing. He believed that smells had like character to them. He thought some of them were evil, others were beneficial, and would try to be around the beneficial ones and avoid the evil ones. One of the evil smells that he believed, or evil airs, I guess, is his own breath. He thought his own breath was toxic, so he didn't like to stand still for too long while speaking because he thought that he'd be breathing in his own toxic fumes and it would kill him. And he also didn't like to stay in the same room for too long, so he would constantly pace around and move about because he didn't want to suck all the oxygen out of a single room.
He would not be doing too well in 2022
He couldn't host
with
a podcast.
masks.
No. Oh no, he'd be an anti-masker. He'd be like, I
he'd be
can't do
an
this.
yeah.
I can't do this. And again, this is despite living amongst toxic fumes of a steel and iron works and coal burning factories. And what it
that
really
fresh
caused
air.
trouble with is he never in his whole life got over this phobia, so he was always terrible at sleeping. He was always an insomniac because if he was asleep, he would suck up all the oxygen. So he would always wake up in a panic every couple of hours and run somewhere else and fall asleep somewhere else. And then wake up again and then go somewhere else to fall asleep. And then wake up again and go somewhere else to fall asleep. But he didn't even sleep that much because of this.
Yeah, he could have benefited from an alcohol problem.
No, because he turned it all into work. So at nights when he wasn't sleeping, he would just pace around his house, scribbling notes in the dark, and then go to the factory and leave notes at workstations of the workers. And sometimes it would be hey, great work on this thing, or you need to move this a little to the left, and just leave little instructions for all of his workers.
This is honestly, it reminds me a lot, no joke, bad breath included, of my old boss and why I'm getting out of the industry I was in. He was like that. He would hit me up at 2:30 in the morning with an email about something we were working on, a production, and I was I can't work in production anymore. I don't want to talk to another person like this ever again.
Well, there's one more smell that we haven't gotten to yet, and that was Alfred's favorite smell of all.
Farts.
You're
What?
close. Alfred had one thing that he loved and cherished above all else, so much so that it's going to play an integral part in a later chapter of this story. Alfred loved the smell of horse shit.
Oh, horse farts.
Horse manure specifically. He thought that breathing in a good, fresh, heaping dung of horse manure enlivened his brain, made him creative, cleared out the toxins in his body, and allowed him to work like a true man.
Why?
He thought it was invigorating and virile.
Like, all right, we all know the little Scheisse jokes and the German things about, like, but it's not a joke.
No.
Because we learned in the Martin Luther episode that, like, the man ate his own shit. And this guy's smelling horse turds.
He would always keep horses
why?
around the factory just so that there was always a fresh supply of horse shit. Sometimes he would have workers, like, shovel out his stalls and bring the horse shit around piles into the factory so he could, like, get a good waft on it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Breathe it in.
I am curious. I am very curious because I am always interested in expanding my mind. And if he's saying horse manure and he's achieved some of the things we're going to cover, might have to try this at some point in my life. Hit up an apple or two, you know what I'm saying? Pay a jockey to come by.
Well, there's a rumor that he did this for the... either he did it or his son did it for the Kaiser, and the Kaiser is kind of like, yeah, there might be something to this, and like kind of like dabbled in the practice of like smelling horse manure.
That's
Well, that's how you get in on it. You first have to do a little dabbling. Maybe you like go out to like one of the stables, give a little whiff, and then all of a sudden you're a full blown horse poop smeller.
Yeah.
Fuck, got genius ideas now.
Yeah, so
I haven't had a thought in months, and all of a sudden I went to the Belmont. And besides picking up a nasty gambling habit, I became a genius.
Yeah. So along the same lines, more of a, I mean, this isn't even modern. It kind of goes back in time too. But have you seen those people that like use them and their partner's piss as like a cure-all for everything? Like they use it as eye drops and like to floss their teeth with like a water pick and like enemas. And it's not like a sexual thing. It's like health benefits of using piss in my eye.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's
I don't
no
like
point.
it. I'm gonna stick to the horse shit.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
It seems better now,
Yeah.
actually.
So all these bundle of like neurotic quirks, they kind of turned Alfred into the perfect industrialist because he was just a workaholic perfectionist to the nth degree. He never slept, so he was always thinking about business. He's always writing off notes in the middle of the night. He's got a boundless energy that will not leave him until like the last 2 years of his life, so he's always on the move. Kind of crazy, but got the job done. He once, like I said, very hard worker, once saying that the anvil was my desk. Which
Was he? Do you know if he was a hard worker or was he just like somebody that was like doing things and people
No,
were like, oh, he's a hard worker?
He was a hard worker and a like straight up genius. Like he was actually he is who Elon Musk wishes he was. Like
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was kind of like, oh yes, he's such a hard worker. Look at him work, and he's like the poopy goes here, and then we make the steel.
No, it's like he would be like he'd be crouched over horse shit in the dark in his room and just would be like drawing out plans for like new steel converters, new ovens, new like expansions. He was a really
was doing
smart
work.
guy. Yeah.
All right.
A real smart.
Unlike his dad. And
Right.
so again, maybe the horse shit helped. Maybe his dad didn't do enough horse shit.
Yeah, his dad's like, P.U., I'm going to get fat over here.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to be skinny and smell poop.
Yeah.
Did he figure out that he could get to places faster and do more work by horseback riding?
Well, he loved horseback, so he was always riding horses.
There you go. So that's like basically Meals on Wheels or Meals on Hooves.
Yeah.
Whiffs on hooves.
Whiffs on... What's a thing?
I don't know.
Can you call a horse a stiff? It would be a dead horse.
He wrote it. The biographer about him like said that he was such a rigid guy that he refused to ever like ride horses where like you would kind of go with the horse's gait. He would just sit straight up and just hold the reins. And any horse who like didn't follow his rules like that, he would be like, I'm not riding this horse. Give me a horse that will let me ride it the way I want to.
That's annoying.
That's
really annoying. That's like someone who just complains all the time when they're playing Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Like someone you can't have fun with. They're like, oh, it's got a shell again.
Yeah.
How
It's
does
the
that
game,
happen?
It's
you
the game.
idiot.
It's how it works.
It's stupid. It's for children.
So now, well, like I said, when he was 14 when he took over the family's company in 1826, they only had 7 employees. They were hundreds of thousands of thalers was the currency in debt, which I can only assume is still a lot of money then, 100,000.
100,000 anything. Unless it's yen or one of the other currencies over there.
And in just 4 years, because of Alfred's hard work, the company breaks even in 1830. And this is even better because at this time, Prussia, the leading state in the Germanic area, because remember, still no Germany, has created like a German free trade zone. So now there's no tariffs on all the rivers, which clears up and opens business.
Awesome.
And Alfred is like right in line to like exploit all that opportunity. He's now producing high quality steel. He has figured out the process. He has gotten through. It didn't really go into how he got the breakthrough. It was kind of something that it seems like a lot of people all at once figured it out, whatever it was, to make the high quality steel.
I mean,
And he was one of them.
if you put a bunch of smart people on the same task,
Yeah.
and it's like it's obtainable through trial and error, they're going to hit it around the
Exactly.
same time.
Right.
You know,
I feel like
within a few years.
that's happened like throughout history. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like
I don't
the
know.
independent discoveries of the same thing.
Yeah, like one of the weird ones where they're always like ancient aliens is like pyramids. How like everyone built it's like, well, yeah, you just make a big triangle.
Yeah,
But like
they're all
like
shape.
roughly, yeah, it's all like roughly around the same time that people are building pyramids.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like you're going to figure out how to contact aliens around the same time if you're like your civilizations
Yeah.
are the same
Yeah.
like age.
Right.
So of course the Egyptians and the Mayans and the Aztecs are going to get
They're gonna get it.
they're going to get
there.
their stuff installed around the same time because that's when they're booking their time with
Exactly.
the aliens.
Tom, are you saying that the aliens stopped in England first for some fish and chips, told them how to make steel, and then they're like, all right, maybe we'll go to Essen. There's this weird guy smelling shit over there. And
No,
they gave
this
him an
guy's smelling
idea.
horse poop. I want to go hang out with him.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What I'm saying is that the lizard people have obviously shown up.
Yeah. So
It's
Alfred,
not those aren't alien, okay?
he met the lizard person. He got the steel, and now he's tripling the workforce to 21 workers.
Staggering.
Oh yeah. Orders are pouring in from across Germany. Now, what are they doing with all this steel? I keep saying they're just making steel. They're not just like selling ingots, but sometimes they are. They're doing steel rollers for other factories, for like the mill and textile industries.
Right.
And then Alfred's brother, his younger brother Herman, discovered a process to use like their excess steel, like trimmings, kind of, to create really high quality tableware in huge quantities.
Nice.
And that was like a big boon to the company because usually before then, high quality steel tableware had to be like carved by hand almost. Because it would be like you'd print out like a rough cut and then it would be finished by hand. And he figured out a way of just creating a mold,
a
basically.
finer cast. If
A
you're
fine
able to make a
cast, yeah.
finer cast, it's
Exactly.
less work on the hand with filing it down and stuff.
That's why
This
you
is
just
still like this is still a practice in a lot of
Yeah.
steel today. Like everything is made in cast, and the better the cast, the less work you have to do afterwards.
I'm
So
just saying
they-
this is why you get paper plates, because once you're done eating your spaghetti, you just throw away the plate.
There you go.
You don't need to worry
Smart.
about carving your plate out of steel.
True. Also,
Made out
knowing
of
the
a-
German. I've been to Germany. I know that these people are hard, and they have a lot of thrust power.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, we're talking about all these industrial things. I know it's a very Travis thing to say, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of sexual aid involved in what the steel was able to accomplish. Like, because a German man and a steel fleshlight, not out of the question.
No.
Well, yeah, I mean, Scheiße, yeah. Oh, the steel beam.
Wow.
Oh, let me tell you, I can melt these steel beams, yeah.
That's skipping ahead of the story.
When Alfred was making cannons eventually, which we'll get to, he referred to them as his children. So maybe he is having sex with the steel to make cannon children. So who knows?
Ooh.
Well, remember, he's like not trying to breathe his breath, so he's
Yeah.
waking up every
And
12
he's
hours.
and
just
he's
like,
afraid of fire.
"Oh, I'm gonna go have sex with the mouth of this gun I've just made.
Yeah. So in the 1830s, company is just kind of cruising along, making high quality steel, tableware, and other like little gadgets and gizmos and things like that. And at this point, they're just like a moderately successful company, which is a huge step up from where they were with his dad. Now, Alfred, his whole life, had a really strong desire to visit England. This is because England is the home of good steel. For him, he desired nothing more than to go to the Midlands of England and see their steelworks.
Yeah,
I think he's the
Sheffield.
only. I literally wrote Sheffield was his mecca.
Sheffield Steel. They are still, even though good old what's her face Maggie Thatcher closed all those mills. they are mines. They are still proud of their steel up in Sheffield. They'll be like, "Yo, Sheffield steel, hey, oh, look at me, oh."
England's got to hold on to what they had.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't get on their case. They had a whole empire that controlled half of the world, and now they're diminished back to being like in these little huts.
Yeah, well, the
Okay.
last one thing they had, Sheffield Steel, Ronald Reagan with tits took away from them.
Ugh.
Well, you know what? Maybe they didn't deserve it anymore. Continue.
So Alfred's in his mid-20s at this point, and like I said, the firm is kind of rolling right along. So he's like, all right, I'm going to go start traveling, try and get some international customers, but most importantly, I want to go to England and learn their secrets. He heads to Paris, has a lot of samples, secures a bunch of new clients. Now they're like starting to become internationally known. And here we get to another of his weird quirks. He was did not take rejection well. And so, like I said, his dad had retreated into the house and was bedridden for 2 years, and that was mostly just because he couldn't handle the fact that he had failed. So he just didn't come out of his room.
That's right.
And that's a tactic that Alfred would practice for the rest of his life.
So I got that long COVID, 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's a tactic that most millennials and Gen Z use on the regular.
So in Paris, one day he couldn't agree to terms with a single client despite having made like dozens of sales in the days leading up to this. And he couldn't agree to terms, and then he claimed to be bedridden for the next 5 days with debilitating pain where he couldn't leave his room. And it drove him mad because he's like, I'm sucking the oxygen out of this room, and I can't leave because I'm in so much pain.
That is depression, though. That's like actual depression. Or manicism.
I think it seems more manic in him. I think.
What is bad breath? That has like isn't that called miasma?
Miasma. I think miasma is just like a bad stench in the air.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Some
Or it's
reason
like
I thought
oozing
that was
gas
a word.
or something.
Yeah, I feel like that's miasma.
Yeah. My asthma.
Yeah, miasma.
Let's keep saying it.
Miasma.
So, miasma or no, this is also the first time he's away from the works for an extended period of time. That's just what the factory area is all called, is the works.
Okay.
So he's constantly writing letters and scribbling notes back to the factory and being like, how's everything going? Is this right? And he's like giving them like minute orders. He's like micromanaging from Paris by telegram, basically.
Well, at least he could.
Yeah. He's like he wrote a note about hiring a watchman because he was so paranoid about people infiltrating his steel mill and like learning all his secrets. And this is a quote from one of his letters. He goes, I suppose we might have a second night watchman to check on the first, and then a third to keep his eye on the second. But in the end, all three would just be asleep together.
Oh,
I love that.
Yeah, he's like, I should hire a second to watch the first and then a third to watch the second, but it won't work. They're all after my steel.
It's funny how like paranoid he is, but he's also right, because look at the Lay's Frito factory. I'm sure there's like 30 security guards there at all times.
dude, some of them, when you look at the Lay's potato chips, it says may contain peanuts and shellfish. How does a peanut and shellfish end up in my chip? Because they don't have enough people.
Yeah, true. We don't have tight enough security to guarantee that there won't be shrimp
There might
in this Frito.
the shrimp might have broken through.
Yeah. Also, I got this little telegraph cipher if you need to recognize what he said.
Oh,
Apparently, mushroom means market is unsettled.
Interesting. I'd actually like to look at that book sometime.
Yeah.
now Alfred had a good reason to be paranoid of people trying to steal business secrets because that's exactly what he was trying to do in England.
Yeah, that's what I was going to...
His whole plan was, I am going to pretend to be an English nobleman. But he changed his name from, he went as Krupp, C-R-U-P, instead of K-R-U-P-P. He thought that was enough to change. He also didn't speak English.
Oh.
He had brought a phrase book. And he wore these really gaudy spurs because he heard that that's what English gentlemen wore, and it was, but 30 years earlier, it's not in fashion anymore.
That'd be
That's
like
awesome.
showing up and like I'm going to go to a business meeting, and you show up at, like with one of those 80s power suits on.
You're like wearing like a Don Johnson Miami Vice suit.
Yeah, and like it's like a modern
slick
business
back hair.
it's like a modern business where people are wearing t-shirts and jeans.
Fucking San Fran startup.
You got like the white collar, but like the blue striped shirt.
Gosh.
Yeah, so that's kind of how he showed up in England. And again, his whole goal is corporate espionage. He's adopting this false identity, and he's trying to sneak into factories to learn their secrets. He's constantly discovered almost immediately and just thrown out of the factory. And all of this is made even more ridiculous because there were other German steel manufacturers who would write to their British counterparts and say, hey, can we have a tour of your factory? And the British would say, sure. And most of them knew he was Alfred Krupp. They were like, oh, you're Krupp from Essen, right? And he'd be like, oh, no, 999.
99, I'm a sneaky
I'm
noble.
English.
Sneaky
I'm
noble.
English, yeah?
999.
Yeah. Looking at his phrase book. Good day, Chowder. What? What's
In it?
Lovely, lovely, jubbly hamburger.
That is a good Lily album we heard last week, yeah?
Do you like Adele's?
So he spends 6 months in England, does not learn a single thing. All he does is just has a newfound love of the English. His love for the English will never go away. And this is when he changes his name from Alfred to Alfred. He anglicized it, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to want to be an English boy, so call me Alfred.
I think he went to a chippy. He had a chippy. He had
Probably had a
some
little
mushy
chippy.
peas. He's like, I love these boys.
This
Mushy
food is
peas
so
are
good.
Mushy
It's all
peas,
brown.
Yeah, mushy peas are the steel of food, except they're soft.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you have any horse manure just for smelling while I'm eating this, please?
Yeah. Could I eat this by the carriage?
Yeah.
Could I get this to go? Could I eat it
Can
in
you,
your Uber?
Can you spin the carriage so that the horse shit comes into the carriage?
possibly in and around my mouth?
Yeah. Well, you didn't eat it. You just want to smell it.
Well, that's what the author says.
Well,
Yeah.
no, we know it was the smell because of the house.
True, but
We'll get to the house.
We'll get to the house.
I don't want to know
but
about the house yet. Don't ruin anything for
we're
me.
not,
and
no,
the
there's
listener.
nothing to ruin him. What I'm saying, Travis, what I want to say is that if he's so into the smell, there had to have been a point where
he's probably
given it
eaten
a touch, a little touch like this, like as I'm touching my microphone, and licked his finger and got,
Yeah.
nah, it doesn't do it.
Or not the same.
Maybe I'll be doing this later.
Maybe if I'm like feeling sleepy, I'll do a little lick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, rubbing cocaine on your teeth.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
like a bump. You gotta do that bump.
So then this is a
It's gotta last.
Bump of
complete
shit.
non sequitur that I have because it was also very much a non sequitur in the book where the author was like, I just have to include this to describe how weird this dude was.
Awesome.
He's back in Germany, or back in Essen because again, no Germany, and it's around his 27th birthday, and he's grown ill. We don't know if it's just hypochondria or if he's actually sick or if it's breathing in toxic fumes of a steelworks.
Right.
And he couldn't remember the last time he had taken a shit, so he decides to celebrate his birthday by giving himself an enema.
Whoa, baby, that's a good way to celebrate a birthday. I'm just
And
saying.
we know that because he wrote either I think this was a letter to his brother that still survives that said, quote, I celebrate my birthday in my own way. Last year with cough medicine, this year with enemas.
Wait, he was drinking scissor his previous, and now he's getting his
'cause he's
butthole
also
clean?
a bit of a hypochondriac, so he probably last year was like, I'm sick, let me choke down some scissor.
Connor.
Now he gave himself an enema because he couldn't remember the last time he took a shit.
I'm just going to ask you, what are you charging us for this episode?
I already got a Guinness, so I think that's what I'll charge.
All right. Well, I mean, well, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Butthole. A lot more than that.
Also, this quick book shout out. We were talking about it before we started recording. Arms of Krupp by William Manchester. It's 1,500 pages long. It's awesome. It doesn't feel like that as you're reading because it's just like full of these like weird, funny little stories sometimes. Yeah, it's good and just very readable.
You're just making me feel stupid when you say that. And the audience, you're probably making them feel pretty stupid.
Go to your library.
You owe them an
get
apology.
Arms of Krupp. and read it.
We have a big boys audience. And,
It's a big book.
and anyone could be a big boy who listens to this show.
All right.
So I don't want you to talk down to them.
I'm not talking. I'm just saying it's a good book. Go check it out.
In the arms of a Krupp.
So he keeps traveling across Europe in the late 30s, early 1840s, securing more contracts for the firm. But most importantly, he's rubbing shoulders with the political elite of all the various European states.
I was going to say he's rubbing soldiers with his freshly cleaned asshole.
He'll be rubbing soldiers soon enough.
Okay.
So all the silverware patents are keeping them afloat because, they're just like moderately successful. They're not any titans of industry at this point.
Right, and they're close enough to Italy to get the forks down there. So people can take
they're-
pictures of them
they're
and
like
put
right
them
on
on
the
their wall
border-
with the spaghetti.
Right on the border of Holland. They're
Well,
like
they're-
northwestern Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I thought they were south. So
No, this is northwest. The biggest thing that happened in the early 1840s for Alfred is in 1843, he makes 2 musket barrels. No one seemed to notice. No one seemed to care. Even for Alfred, it was just a hobby that he did in his off time. So when I say he's a genius, like his off day, he's making steel barrels for muskets.
awesome.
Then the 1848 revolutions sweep across Europe. Alfred's worried. He's like, I hate these new socialists. They're scaring me. And he believed that industrialists like himself were the rightful successors to the medieval barons and lords that had presided over towns in the past.
Not wrong.
Yeah, so he is like,
Oh, I'm just saying, I think that the people that smell horse manure should definitely be in charge of everyone.
yeah, so he's like, I should be in charge of everyone. My workers should have a blind, fanatic loyalty to me. And in return, and this is kind of where he's, again, a man of contradictions, I will provide them with everything they need.
Right.
I will provide their schooling. I'll provide their health care. I'll provide them with money to raise their children.
Right. Later, you have the Hershey's model that we covered, which
Right.
did that. And then now we have the Silicon Valley model where it's, you come work for me. I will give you lots of money. You will be taxed to hell because of it. But don't worry. In return, I will surveil you 100% of the time. Yeah.
Well, no, also, even before that, too, with our Jacob Fugger thing, he did that same thing. He built, the weird little house, and, you couldn't, bring hookers back to it. There was, guards and stuff.
Yeah. Who wants to live Who wants to want to live in a Ramada Inn?
Oh! But I think if this guy was more into genetics, do you think that he would have made centaur people that he could control?
I think if he thought of it, he would have tried it. Okay. That's what it strikes me like.
So, if he had a little bit more Mangala in him and less...
Yeah,
Krupps.
well, we can if we do an episode on the whole family, we'll get to his grandson, who is probably good friends with Joe Mangala. So.
All right.
Let's perhaps plan for that.
Yeah.
That was the Nazis'
this is-
ultimate plan, to create centaurs.
This has gone without saying, but it's now worth mentioning. Raging anti-Semite, but also just par for the course for the time.
What?
So it's like
What's
He
his
wasn't-
time period?
1840s.
1840s.
So he's not more anti-Semitic than the guys next to him. He's just a regular old anti-Semite.
There was. It's funny too because there were outspoken anti-Semites during that time, but when we did the episode on Nietzsche, the opposition to that was fairly strong too. It is funny, they just talked about it a lot. Germany wasn't all raging anti-Semites, but it was the hot topic of conversation. People were, leave him alone, or fuck
He
him.
was like, leave him alone, but he's like, don't talk to me, don't come near me, stop running the banks.
All right, so
that's
he's-
the anti-Semite
Yeah.
he is.
Please
But then
evolve,
then
please
his
evolve.
grandkids
He's
are
on the
like-
lighter side of the terrible.
Yes,
people.
but his grandson was the largest owner of forced labor in all of Nazi Germany.
Amazing.
Oh.
And that's all it takes. All it takes is just the right Wagner. You just hear the right Wagner.
Yeah.
And you will be setting up your own camp.
Yeah.
So watch
Yeah.
it, parents. If your kids start playing the Wagner stuff, careful.
All right, so it's the 1840s, and like I said, Alfred had just produced his first 2 musket barrels made of cast steel. We still don't know really why he began doing this. Again, the firm's doing okay with their silverware patents. Some say that he did it from patriotic pride. He wanted to arm the Prussian state with his own steel. Others say that he looked at one of his machines and had a stroke of inspiration and was like, I'm going to make guns out of my steel.
Okay.
And then others was because there's a theory that a random gun dealer just asked his brother if it was possible to make steel weapons, and they were like, "Oh, we'll try. Let's see." I think that's probably the most likely. And like I said, it was a hobby for Alfred. This was just what he did for fun. He'd go to the factory, have his normal day. He'd come home. He'd sketch out designs for creating cast steel muskets.
I mean, that's where a lot of good ideas come from. It's just you want to do it.
Just
you know,
tinker.
you want to make a gun out of steel.
Yeah.
You know, you want
Can
to
I make a gun out of steel?
You want to make a pillow that you can call my pillow. You want.
Yes.
You want
to
to
do these things.
You want to make a news
It
agency.
becomes your obsession.
Yeah.
You lose your mind.
You want to sell people cricket powder. You want to.
Dude, it's a viable source of protein, Tom.
From you, I'm not surprised. You're totally on board with that.
Dude, I'm totally about trying to get larger so I can get richer, dude. If I
I'm
can
just
give more money to cricket people, I mean, that's going to be more investments.
That's
of me
fair enough.
eating
I mean, we'll
cricket
talk about
juice.
that after the show
Yeah,
because it's
all right,
really
keep
not
going,
history
keep going.
related.
Yeah,
I was
no,
making
yeah,
an
yeah,
analogy, and I don't want to cut you off. I want to respect your time.
Centaur people. Please continue.
All right. So for Alfred, though, he was kind of like, all right, maybe I'll try and sell them. But for his goal wasn't the musket barrels. These were more proof of concept for him because what I want to make are cannons. I want to build big fucking steel cannon.
Nice.
Whew. No one cared. Everyone's like, fuck this shit. No, why would we get steel cannons? You're an idiot. And everyone's like, go away. We don't want it. We don't want it. So much so that he's like, all right, I'm just going to build one. I'm going to build a steel cannon, and I'm going to force them to want this. And this is so revolutionary for arms production at the time. This has never happened before. All before it had been either a military, like, had their own private, like, ironworks where they would do their own shit, or they would come up with it. A military person would come up with a design and be like, hey, who could build this for our country? Alfred is like, I'm going to start building guns, and I'm going to find customers for them.
It's like the guy who invented the Segway. No one knew that you wanted to stand upright and cruise around.
But I'm gonna make every historical walking tour a Segway tour.
Yeah,
I had no idea how much I hated walking.
I'm gonna put the fucking duck tour out of business. We're gonna do this city tour on a Segway. Yeah,
I want tourists to die.
When I was in Chicago, I did consider doing a Segway tour.
What's a good city for it? It's flat.
Well,
It needs to be a flat city.
Because look, I like to push it a little bit. The city is very violent.
Yeah.
So if I was to get shot dead on a Segway, that might be fun. Then people
Be
might
pretty funny.
that would be hilarious. Your dead body just going like randomly in a circle.
Exactly. If I was to die, that would be the moment.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
So, like I said, everyone's rejecting him. So he says, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself. He builds his prototype cast steel cannon in 1847. And for the first time, that would be the first of hundreds and hundreds of thousands, a Krupp cannon is delivered to Berlin. It would sit there for 2 years, unused, not even tested. It just kind of sat in a hallway. And everyone's like, huh, that's fucking weird. That's not bronze. And would walk right by it. And Alfred's like, no, test out my gun. You're going to want to switch all your guns to mine because it's going to be better. He's constantly sending letters to the government. He's like, please just test it. Please just try it out.
You haven't.
Yeah, he's like, I
already.
gave you this gun. And this would be a tactic for him for the rest of his life is he would just send a prototype to a government and be like, try it out. And once he's like established, it was a amazing tactic. And it started to work here.
I'm familiar with this mindset because I do the Heavy Hole podcast with Big Will, a.k.a. Uncle Buck. And we get a lot of that from underground death metal artists where they're like, it's better. It's like,
Here's our sample.
There's a lot of good stuff that comes in the show. Don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of it's just like, you're just doing the drums and you're doing guitar. Like, I heard that already. We don't talk about those on the show, to be fair. That show is a lot less mean-spirited than this one could ever be.
Yeah.
Tom, I have heard of drums and guitar too. I love that joke. Ha ha!
Yeah, exactly. It's all a joke. Everything you do is a joke, especially if you're a musician. Get used to it.
So this gun that he sent to Berlin, no one really gave a shit. Again, this is the Prussian government. That's who he was sending it to because Prussia still had a controlling area of Essen, even though it wasn't really the same border. Anyway, No, none of the generals wanted it. They're like, this is stupid because we don't need to upgrade our iron or bronze cannon. And the main reason, like I mentioned before, is because bronze cannon was used by Wellington to defeat Napoleon. So if it's good enough for Wellington, again, 50 years ago, it's good enough for us now.
Connor, I wish that this was like what our government thought. It's like, we don't need to invest like, $700 billion into this airplane, this jet that we're never going to use. We got these perfectly good ones. They won World War II.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like the Prussian government. It was all the governments of the world were like, no, bronze cannon's all you need. It defeated Napoleon.
I guess, I mean, if everyone's doing it.
No, Travis, that's a great point. It would be like if all of the world was still armed with the M1 Garand and the T-34 Soviet tank because they're like, well, no, that's what defeated Nazi Germany. Why would you upgrade from that?
Yeah.
It won.
It just fucking works,
and
man.
then some fucking asshole in Essen is like, here's a fucking Apache helicopter. You should use it. And they're like, no. That's weird.
Why would I need an iPhone? What? I barely use my
have a
eyes.
telegraph.
Yeah, I have a flippy phone.
Yeah.
And I can text message all of my friends.
Obviously, that spinny thing is going to fall down because I've seen the movie Black Hawk Down. I know that it falls to the ground, people get hurt. I'm not going to buy that.
Well, either way, it works. The only, department in the military really likes to change it up is
Space Force.
The camo department.
Ooh, yeah.
They are constantly changing
Always updating.
what they think eyes see.
Or don't see.
Or
Tom,
don't see, rather. Yeah.
Have you ever seen some of those? This is a little side note, but I'm sure you've seen it before, Connor. The like World War I boat camo that
I love the zigzag camo.
So
It's
fucking cool.
No,
Yeah.
I never saw that.
You should. That's something you got to look up. That's
Yeah,
fun.
it is really cool.
I'm going to write this down. Zigzag camo, World War
Is that
I?
what it is? What was the actual name for it? It was
There was like some artist that did it. I forgot the name.
And
of
it was basically like they realized that against the waves and the spray of the sea, having these weird crisscross patterns on the hull made it impossible to see from a periscope of a U-boat.
Really?
Yeah,
because
it was
it
pretty
broke
effective.
up. Yeah, like broke up the straight lines.
Yeah, like
or
even
something.
if they knew a ship was there, they wouldn't be able to tell like direction or how big it was. So
Right, they'd be able to check it out on radar, but not.
Yeah, so it'd be more
specifics.
inaccurate.
Okay, cool, interesting.
Yeah. So Alfred's like, all right, I got to drum up business somehow, and even though cannons aren't selling, this is where it's like starts, where it's like he's got a successful business, and we're gonna get into like the really successful part of his business, which again isn't cannon at first. But it's like he's always had this weird obsession with them, and it's going to stick with him for the rest of his life. In 1851, he sees his chance for a big score. England is hosting an international exhibition at the Crystal Palace in London, and they're inviting all the industrialists across the world to come show off their goods. So, across Europe, one of the competitions, it was an informal competition, was who can create the world's largest cast steel ingot?
That's an ingot's just a brick.
An ingot is a brick of steel. The idea is that to create a solid piece of steel ingot of like a massive size, you would need incredible coordination, and you'd have to like pour all the crucibles at the exact right time, and they'd all have to be the exact same temperature in order to form this one massive piece. So it is a feat of engineering, but for no purpose.
Right.
Alfred,
even if they just made a chair. Like,
a chair would be more
Who can make
purposeful.
the biggest steel chair?
yeah, no, instead they're like, who can make the biggest single piece of steel?
All right.
Who can make
one-
the most rotund butt plug?
Yeah, one firm
Careful.
came up with a 2,500-pound steel cast ingot. Everyone's like, wow, that's the biggest we're ever going to get. That's crazy. Alfred's like, fuck you. Hold my horse manure. The Krupp workers were always called Kruppioneer. That was like the name for the Krupp workers. Now he's up to like a couple hundred from the 7 that he started with.
Okay.
They pour 98 crucibles of molten steel without a hitch. With the result, a 4,300-pound steel cast ingot.
How they move that
Massive.
thing?
Everyone was like, wow, that's the coolest thing we've ever seen. Krupp gets a gold medal from the exhibition. All of his fellow professionals recognize that this is the steel guy now. This is when Krupp kind of surpasses England.
Is he like?
Krupp's-
Is he like, oh, thanks for the gold medal? I mean, I'd much
thanks for
rather
the
like
gold
a
medal.
steel medal. I mean, gold
he
is a
probably
great
was a little pissed off.
gold is a
terrible
great
trade-off.
conductor, but we don't even know that yet.
We don't even know what lights are. We're all operating in the dark here.
Well, he loved to operate in the dark. He loved little scribbling his little notes.
Yeah, just like breathing not his breath.
Horse manure is also very flammable. You can use it as like a starter for a campfire.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Well, it's not very flammable, but you can use it as like kindling. So it's basically hay.
Honestly, it's not the worst thing because they're not carnivores. Carnivore shit is
Worse.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, my cat's shit smells really bad. He just took a duty in the corner.
It's just nightmare poop. Anyway,
yeah.
All right. So ingot's a big hit. All the fellow professionals are like, all right, Kruppstahl is what the name for Krupp steel is like, all right, they're like, might be the best quality steel. He's on to something. This guy's real smart. If you read the press coverage of it, though, you would never hear about you'd probably hear one or two things about the big ingot, but the public, their imagination was captured by something else that Alfred had brought. He had brought along with him the prototype 6-pound gun that he had sent to Berlin and then took back and now had brought and displayed at the exhibition. Now, a 6-pound gun does not mean the gun is 6 pounds. It means the shell that it fires is 6 pounds. Whoa. The gun
heavy boy.
itself is probably like 1,200 pounds or something like that. Again, all cast steel, so like polished to a sheen. It's on a oak, or no, what was it on? An ashen wood frame, and it was also on wheels. And like I said, Tom, to you, he brought 6 steel breastplates to show off to the cavalry.
right.
So
And
wait, he basically like backseed Berlin. He's like, if you guys aren't going to use it, I'm going to bring it to the show.
Yeah, and they were like, well, yeah, we're not going to use it.
Yeah, it was
Fuck
like,
off.
okay.
Whatever.
It's fine. We're
Is
never
this-
going to. Hey, we're Berlin. We're never going to see war again. You
Yeah.
see how we pulled this shit off?
Is this what he called modern art?
So the whole public, their imagination was captured by the gun. And just to show how far we've come since this moment, the American delegations all brought like agricultural equipment.
Well, yeah.
And nowadays, it's like we would bring the steel gun.
Things just changed, man.
Yeah, the Americans brought like a big, nice plow. And we're like, look at our plow.
Okay, hold on a second. That mindset makes sense because this is like America is still undergoing like this weird Western expansion.
Right.
Yes, it's still, yes, we've been everywhere at this point, but we have so much land.
Yeah.
Like the culture.
The culture is all about farming.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much area, so much land to till.
We don't need no steel cannon to kill Injuns.
We
We
yeah.
need a steel plow to carve
To
up
kill
Oklahoma
Injuns.
soil.
Yeah, to run over them Indian babies before they born out them eggs. Dig up the burial grounds. Exactly. So
We
it makes
need
sense.
steel bowie knives to carve all these bison we got killed out here.
Wait, but you're talking
This is where they showed the first Carhartt jacket.
But you're talking about America bringing like plows. Like, what did Russia bring? Like, this is Boris, the best mule in Russia. He can say 5 words in Russian. Suka.
I don't know. Well, it does make
teach them
sense, though.
speak.
Like, America at this time had so much growing
Right.
that it only makes sense that they were getting into the agriculture.
I mean, America's the ultimate grower. I'm just putting it out there. No one thought
America has
America.
been showing. Excuse me, America's been a wreck for several decades.
No,
now.
but hey, I'm just saying that it's a grower because no one saw it coming. They're like, well, it's a tiny little boy. They're never going to be as big
yeah,
as
that's true.
as England. And whoa, they got hard.
Whoa, that's a big one.
It's so funny. China is like there, and they're like they're showing, but we don't believe it.
Yeah, they're showing, but we're like,
Like, we're
how much
showing-
bigger is it going to get?
Yeah,
China-
it's
China's like,
promising, but I'm also far away.
Yeah.
And when I get closer, it's gonna be small. I know.
China's like, we kind of like invented like paper and like everything that you guys use. So like, it's not really any different than the rest of history.
And we're like, shut up, you dumb bitches.
We're
got
a
these-
grower.
We like Japan, not you.
Yeah.
Japan's
Dude.
cool. They got their own steel, which is garbage, but they sell to us.
Have you ever seen Chinese hentai don't exist? How am I going to get in my Gundam and look at big anime titties if you blow up Japan?
Yeah, leave Japan alone. I don't care that they've been the aggressor for several centuries. They've done nothing wrong. They've given us titties.
I know that they've been dicks, but they draw big
They've made their
tits.
redemption. They did their time.
They did their time. They showed us the tits that we wanted.
What did you guys do? You wore overalls and shit.
Yeah. Thanks for the confusion. Continue, Connor.
All
Who
right,
cares?
so back
I
to the
can't
Crystal
finish that.
Palace. The Crystal Palace Expo taught Alfred two things. One, there's a future in arms manufacturing, especially if you sell it directly to the public. And two, expos are going to be a great way to drum up future sales. All right, so one person we haven't mentioned in the story, mostly because of time constraints, is Alfred's mother. And we're going to mention her here to mention that she died. And she kind of was taking care of Alfred this whole time. Okay. Not
Well, right. She was a businesswoman.
No, that was his grandma.
Oh, that was his grandma.
But his
Okay.
mom was just like a big figure in his life, and he was a mama boy. Like, she basically made him his meals, made sure he ate, made sure he was drinking his juices, that type of thing. And so when she died, his like personal life kind of became unmoored. So he was like, all right, I need a wife to do what my mom did. I need a mommy wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need a trad dad.
So he's been looking around for suitors during this time. That's kind of been in the background of his life as we've been talking about like the Crystal Palace Expo and all that. And so returning from England.
I wonder what his Tinder profile would look like. Hobbies include sniffing horse manure and making hard things.
Likes.
Would you like to get
Horse
hard,
shit.
ladies?
Dislikes. Fire.
Ladies, would you like a man that gets hard
Yeah,
as steel?
How about this? I make hard for a living. You ever think like that, maybe? Maybe you like me up every 2 hours at night because you breath so bad that I need to fuck it out of you? JK, I'm just moving to a hammock I
We
built.
go to different bed every night.
Yeah, like
Every
that
hour,
guy.
actually.
Every hour I will bed
Like-
you with someone else.
Like that guy on Tinder that holds up like the fish he caught. He's just holding up some like steel, like a little steel cuirass.
Like a melting,
Check
like
this
a
out,
molten
brah.
ball of steel.
You know there's the picture of him on the cannon.
Oh, there's got
Like
Oh,
straight
yeah.
out of Strange Love.
yeah,
but it's
like
just
he's pretending to jerk off his dick,
Yeah.
but it's the cannon. Yeah.
I'm a big boy, hard big boy, yeah.
Hot a big boy!
I wish we had a recording of his voice because if you look at a picture of him, pull up a picture of him. We haven't,
Sure.
because he's
Yeah, I want to look at him.
he's a fucking weird looking guy. Because he's a gaunt figure. He's got like scraggly white hair.
Whoa.
His hair had gone white when he was like in his 30s because of the stress or the horse shit. Who knows?
Oh, jeez, this guy looks like a ghost. Like,
That's why I said he looks like someone that is haunting children nightmares.
yeah. Oh yeah, big boy. I have big hard steel. Yeah.
And just like he's got that weird little chin and the big beard.
He looks like, okay, hold on. He looks like, so Ralphie beats up Ralph Fergus, okay? And Ralph Fergus grows up and reflects upon this moment too much in his life. The Christmas Story. That's what he looks like. He looks like Ralph Fergus at 60. Look at those eyes. He had yellow eyes. Now he has dead eyes.
Yeah.
Because it's been overtaken by horse manure.
Yeah, it's just all that ammonia
Yeah.
seeping into his brain.
Definitely haunting. A kind of guy who's experienced, but you also learn nothing from talking to him.
Yeah, because all of his weird genius is just his own. Like it's no one can share in that.
How dare you describe your life to me?
Well, I could see like his Christian-esque drawings of centaurs and things that he keeps in his room.
That would be fun too. If he was like if he was the Christian of C.S. Lewis works. Here's my book. It's it's the Lion from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
it's Aslan.
but it's also a wardrobe.
So when he's in his early 40s, like I said, he's like looking for a wife, looking for a mommy wife, and he's in Cologne securing a contract. Cologne, Agrippina, shout out.
There we go.
Shout out to
Tie
that
back.
episode. Shout out Agrippina. He's securing a contract. He is stopped in a theater, and he's literally like walking past the theater, and then stops when he sees this woman, and he is like, "I simply must have her. She's beautiful. I want her. I love her."
How old was she?
Like 20.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
legal and still a little weird, but not as creepy as we've done in the
Wait,
past.
how old is he?
Yeah.
He's like 40, I think. Maybe
All
like
right.
late 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
And she's 20 or 21.
Who cares?
Yeah.
She doesn't have a future anyway.
He courts her for a month. He's basically like, come on, don't you want to marry me? He actually has one really sweet line. This is his opening line to her. He goes, where I supposed I had nothing but a piece of cast steel, I had a heart.
Oh, he's like
It's
a
kind of
little
like,
tin
oh, you're
man.
14 and you're talking to a girl for the first time. Like,
Damn. That's like, yo, that pussy be popping.
yeah.
Yeah.
So young.
I think hey girl, I think that's what we're about. Hey girl, you want something that's hard as steel? It's my wiener.
You want my
big
cannon?
old cannon.
You want my cannon?
I've actually been experimenting with these things at night. I don't have a wife, so what I do is I make dicks out of steel. It's not for me to suck. It's for my future wife to suck. So you could have that.
So young Bertha Eichhoff finally says yes to a marriage proposal from our friend Alfred Krupp.
Romantic.
When does she learn about the horse poop?
I was about to say it is not going to be a happy marriage. Here's the direct quote from William Manchester in the book. No one could live with such a man. He could barely stand himself. End quote.
Like, well, I mean, like, all right, so that had to, the horse manure thing had to come up at some point. Like, was this guy so obsessed that he kept like a little snuff box of it or
Probably
something on him?
not that
you know?
obsessed, but I mean, also it's the 1800s, so there are horses everywhere. So
That's
it's not
true.
hard to go far without it, especially
So, like,
in the cities.
They go see a play at the theater, and he goes outside, and he's like,
It's
I
probably
cannot
like he
sit
was like
through the entire show, my love.
when he first brought her to Essen, and is like, "Here's my house," and she's like, "Well, one, it's a cottage attached to the factory that your dad died in, and there's horse shit everywhere." And he's like,
Yeah, and he's also-
welcome to my house." Like,
He's also like walking in and out of the room. She has to like follow him
Yeah.
everywhere.
Honey, why do you keep stopping every quarter mile to get $1 worth of gas?
so for her whole life, for the rest of their lives together, Bertha would do anything in her power to avoid spending time with Alfred.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, good. Honestly, good for her. She
Yeah.
married a really rich dude and was like, "Bye-bye, I'm gonna hang out in Nice."
I support her.
Nice.
I like that. I like that she was honest up front about like first of all, you said she took a month to convince.
A month to say yes.
Now
yeah.
back then it was a matter of hours.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
So
dillied and dallied.
that's like being engaged for 35 years now.
Yeah. She's an old maid already. It's been a month.
It's been a month. Those eggs are dying.
One of them's gone.
One.
So she was either a massive hypochondriac. She actually just might have been a hypochondriac like him. Or she was pretending to be a hypochondriac, or she was just like, I can't stand this guy. I'm going to say I'm sick and go spend the rest of my life in spas in like the Alps or in the Riviera or in southern Italy or
fucking
southern
awesome.
France. Yeah,
That's
great.
Good for her.
Yeah, I spend
and Alfred-
all my time at spas at LA Fitness in the sauna. It's very
right?
relaxing.
Hanging out with other dudes.
Hanging out with other dudes.
That's cool,
yeah.
man. Oh, you naked?
Showing
Me
off
too.
our steel.
Yeah, we talk about steel and shit. It's cool.
So Alfred, for his part, truly loved Bertha. Like, it's not even like he's like got this weird like controlling of her. He genuinely was just head over heels in love with this girl.
Okay, great.
Which made the whole fact that she just wanted to have nothing to do with him a little awkward for Alfred, and kind of pitiable, as we're going to see. He tried to build her a beautiful house in Essen. He called it the Garden House, and it was in the style of an Italian villa. It's a very beautiful home. It was built with all these like clear glass windows so that she could look out. He had built in gardens. He put in a bunch of greenhouses, like kind of surrounding where the house, like where the living quarters of the house, where he put like peacocks and exotic flowers and all these cool things.
It's a must if you're rich.
Beautiful, beautiful home. One problem: it was not attached to the steelworks. It was just next to it, because Alfred couldn't be far enough from it, and he even put in a crow's nest on the top floor that had a 360-degree view of Essen, so that he could climb up into the crow's nest and stare at his factory to make sure that the fires kept burning through the night.
Right, and I'm assuming anywhere in this town is probably just smog from all the burning of the
within
smelting
months,
and
all of the animals and all of the plant life died because of the soot that was just seeping in, and all of the windows were permanently stained black.
Lovely. I will treat you to a beautiful garden.
My
in the
love, I'm
heart
going
of
to build
Essen.
a very big house for you in the heart of Essen next to my factory. Now, I have not been to Italy myself because Connor just told me we live far from it. But what I have is a genuine Italian spirit. And when you come into the driveway, it says, when you're here, your family. There are endless breadsticks as soon as you walk into the house.
And they use my steel cutlery.
Yeah. Take a seat. Have a nice time. We always have seats available at Olive Garden.
Yeah, so not only was like the house a disaster, but there was not enough good ventilation, so the soot and the smoke got into the house and destroyed all of her clothes at certain points.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
to nice, bitch.
Yeah,
Nice.
So she's like, I'm fucking out of here. At one point, she was begging him to take him to the opera, and he's like, no. I must watch The Forge and make sure that it still goes. And he said, and hearing the hammer of my forge through the night will be sweeter than any music of any opera in the world.
You know, dude, I have done similar tactics with girls who I wanted them to, like, break up with me. Where I've done terrible
he loved
things.
this woman.
I've done terrible, like when I didn't want to date them anymore. They'd be like, "Hi, I got tickets to the movie." And I go, "Well, look, I have to go to work at 11 a.m. tomorrow, so I don't know if I can go to a 9 p.m. movie."
Yeah.
You know, I would just say terrible things like that. And on top of getting them to hate me, it was funny.
Well, and also, so another stereotypical German thing. Wow, we got the Scheisse. We got, what was the other German thing?
Steal?
The Steel.
Hating
we got,
Jews.
Steel. He hated Jews.
Yeah.
And now he's into industrial music. The banging of hammers on the
I
forge.
want to fuck you like later.
I want to have missionary sex. Dong, 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 dong.
Du hast.
So we know they had sex at least once, because 9 months after the wedding, Bertha gives birth to little Friedrich Krupp. Everyone would just call him Fritz.
Nice.
And it was then that she was like, "Get me the fuck out of Essen. I'm never coming back to this shithole of a city."
Smart.
Did she-
smart woman.
This is
Did
when
she
she's-
take Fritzy Boy with her?
Took Fritzy Boy with her, and Alfred, for his part, he like went with them a lot in the beginning stages and was like a very caring father. For all his other faults, he was a family man. You know, he did love his wife. He did love his kids, because I think they
cares?
have one other child.
Your family's stupid. Who cares?
Oh yeah, but
Yeah, but was the second child actually his kid?
here's
I mean, come on.
oh no, we know she had tons of affairs.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah,
Even
Because
better.
There are going to be points in the story where like Alfred loses his mind because some minor thing goes wrong, and he flees to her, and then he kind of just like shows up a neurotic mess into the life that she's created for herself in these places.
Right.
And so that she's like, "Oh, here's my husband who's like going through a mental breakdown. Here are all my pals. I'm definitely not sleeping with this guy," like that kind of thing.
Here's one of my good guy friends. His name is Lexington Steele.
Yeah.
You might have a lot in common. You're in the steel industry.
Well, no,
Yeah,
Alfred would be
Lexington-
like, "Well, no, is he a competitor?" I gotta.
Lexington Steele and I play Mario Kart together on Fridays.
He's a steel dealer.
Yeah.
He,
Okay.
you should talk.
He lays pipe.
So Alfred, he always bought her like hypochondriac thing. He thought she was actually sick this whole time. So
Of course. Well, he's sick his whole time.
He came up with an ingenious plan because he would write her all these letters. She never would write back, or if she did, it would be like a scrawled note that's like, "I'm not feeling well. Bye."
On a receipt at a bar
On
or
a
something.
receipt
like,
of a bar that like has like a Lexington Seal like smooch sign on it.
some dude's phone number on the
So
back.
what Alfred did, and this is probably the most pitiable thing I've ever come across in history, is he created form letters where she would either just have to fill in the blank or circle a choice of like 4 options. And he gave her like big stacks of these. And it was like, "Honey, all you got to do is fill in the blank and sign it and send it back."
This is amazing.
Yes.
It's so sad.
Pathetic.
It's so sad.
What's the
Well,
point?
you-
What is the point?
Because he even like wrote it all out. It would be like, "Dear Alfred, I am feeling blank. Today I went to," and then like circle one, like the gallery, the opera, this thing with Fritz, and then it was always signed like "Lovingly your dear wife Bertha." Remember, he wrote that. Like he wrote that out, and then she would just have to sign it and send it away.
No fucking way, dude.
It's so
What a sad fucking pile.
yeah. So that's his personal life.
Oh yeah, this guy
All right.
sounds like he's a very social butterfly. one of the
So
like, what? If this is how he is with his. Like, did he have friends? Like, did he have friends or no?
No.
Yeah,
'Cause
okay.
he thought if people were trying to be his friend. Well, no, he had business friends. So, like, one of the generals in the Prussian military staff, like, always had his back. So that was kind of a friendship.
Yeah.
He had a friendship with his, like, London agent. That was someone he, like, considered friendly with.
The guy out in the stable, he's pretty close.
He's probably really good friends with the state.
Yeah, go to the stable.
Knew everyone who worked in the stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
The centaur people he drew in his room.
So back to business. The gun business, still more fantasy than reality for Alfred at this point.
Okay.
Because, like I mentioned earlier, that silverware was the start, but what's going to be the big thing that makes the Krupps the Krupps? It's railroads. Of course it's railroads. This is the 1800s. It's the age of the railways.
Endless. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
like back then. That was like the corn syrup industry of today.
Oh, yeah.
You could just keep feeding it. Feed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was what we'll get into the railroads in a second. Sorry. But he took the gun that was at the Crystal Palace, and he just like, let me try this one more time. I'm going to send it back to Berlin. The King of Prussia doesn't give a shit because the King of Prussia is a like literally insane man.
It's Bavaria. It's Ludwig II, right?
No, it might be.
I think it's Ludwig.
It's,
yeah, we
it's
covered.
the guy before Wilhelm I. So before the first Kaiser, it's the Kaiser's brother.
Fuck.
It might. It's not Ludwig of Bavaria.
All right. Yeah.
It's a Hohenzollern prince who's mad, but whatever.
Oh yeah, he's a Bavaria. I'm honestly so bad with that shit with the Prussia, German territory. all
Prussia's
that.
northeastern Germany.
Yeah, Ludwig is out of the picture. He's Bavaria. My bad.
He's a
but
he's a chocolate boy.
But
yeah.
Go back to that episode. By the
We're
way.
gonna do
It's one of my favorites.
I'm gonna read out his full
one.
name, and Ludwig is in there because while the king himself doesn't care, the crown prince Wilhelm Friedrich Ludwig von Hohenzollern sees it and goes, "That's awesome! I gotta meet the guy who made that."
Smart.
And this is a big deal. Wilhelm tours the Krupp factories. This is a big deal, one, because obviously it's the crown prince, the next in line to the throne, coming to your factory, and two, Alfred didn't let anyone else into his factory, and so this was like, he was kind of still scared of corporate espionage when the crown prince came to tour his factory.
Right. Remember all the rhetoric about the security guard on security guard.
He locked his workers into the factories.
Amazing.
He was that kind of guy.
This is like when Joe Rogan got that butane flamethrower from Elon Musk's Boring Company, and he was like, "This is so fucking cool. This is the future. This is the future." And then Elon's like, "Come, I will show you my place."
Yeah, come to my factory, man.
Yeah.
That shit's dumb.
So Wilhelm tours the factory. He's like, "This is fucking awesome. Good German spirit here. Good German steel being made. I'm going to give you the Order of the Red Eagle, 4th class, a distinction mostly reserved for generals who had won distinction on the battlefield." This is, at the moment, probably Alfred's like crowning achievement. He'll have more crowning achievements later, but this is like when he's like, "Oh my god, there's a purpose to all of this. There's been a purpose to all of this struggle."
Right. All this horse shit in my nostrils is worth it.
And now he's got another expo coming up. This one's going to be in Paris. Once again, they're going to make a big steel beam. This one is nearly 6,000 pounds, so almost 2,000 pounds more than the previous one. Wow. It is so big that it broke through the floor of the exhibition and destroyed the basement levels, nearly killing the judges of the expo.
Hell yeah.
He wins. He won the
him.
expo.
Kill him.
Yeah, he's like, "You're like, wow, you nearly killed us. That was awesome.
I like
Look how
that.
big your steel ingot is."
Do you think the letter to his wife was like, "Hey, I just won this competition in Paris, and it almost killed the judges," and it was like, "You think that's cool or rad?"
Does that make you happy?
Horny.
Or ecstatic? And she responded back, please, I'm sick.
Yeah.
She probably just hired some wench.
Yeah, to do it
some
for
wench
her.
to just fill it. If I get one of these SAT questions from my husband, would you please fill it out and send it back to him?
He also, not to be outdone from the previous expo, brought a steel cannon. This time, a 12-pounder, so something firing 12-pound shells. Just for reference, like the cannons you see in like Napoleon and the Civil War, like those classic cannons, those are 8-pounders.
Right.
So this is a 12-pounder.
It's big boys.
Yeah, big boy.
Big boy.
He demonstrated it this time. He didn't just like show it. He was like, here's a testing range, and I'm going to shoot it and show you how good the steel cannons are. Fired 3,000 shots in a single afternoon. No damage to the barrel. No damage to the performance of the gun. All the European powers looked at that and were like, wow, that's unpractical.
Really?
Yeah.
Because that was a big thing with the cannons, especially during like Napoleonic
Yeah,
Wars.
'cause the
Is
bronze
these barrels
cannons would explode.
the barrels would overheat so much, and they'd crack or they'd explode.
Yeah.
They had people pouring water on them, and like,
No, everyone looks at it as like, wow, that's cool. Don't want them, though.
wow,
Yeah,
these
we
guys
got
are dope.
best is-
we got these Molly pitches here. And they come out with their water and they just pour it on us. Sometimes they make a bath.
We don't want to
Wait,
get rid of the
you-
picture girls.
Sometimes it's a joke, you know, because when they pour the water, it makes it steamy, and then we'd whip our penises out. And then we got to guess whose penises we can see. So it's a game. We don't want to get rid of that.
without the steel?
You want to take away the joy from our boys and the artillery? Come on.
Just keep the spirits high, the penis game we've been playing, so there's no way we're buying that thing. Keeping cool.
My favorite part about this is he sent either this gun or an identical gun to the Russians and was like, don't you want to buy my gun? The Tsar sees it. He's like, all right, let's go. We'll test it out. They do a similar test, no problem, firing all these shots in a single afternoon. And they all go, wow, that thing's a freak of nature. Put it in a museum. Put it in a museum.
Russians are retarded, man.
we
They're
touched
fucking retarded.
we touched on this on the London episode. Not very smart, those Russians.
I can't.
The country that would eventually, like the Tsar got overthrown because his country was not ready for war, and we wonder why. When
Yeah, right?
he is like, wow, that cannon that is performing better than any piece of machinery has ever performed before must be a freak of nature. Put it in a museum. Don't order more of them.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, this is the museum of good boys that we found. These are all the best boy things we have found.
This is what happens when collectibles, like, this is why loot crate boxes exist. It's because people think there's something valuable beyond the practical use of any object.
This is why NFTs exist.
NFTs
but Tom-
have more merit than guys taking an actual weapon and storing it away. At
Tom,
least
what-
I'm not getting into NFT shit. I don't want to get into that because it's strange. I don't fully understand it. I like crypto, but this
Yeah, but
is
Tom-
a primo example.
Yeah.
Tom, what if the Funko organization is actually pulling the wool over your eyes because they're all chunks of uranium that you could make nuclear bombs with, but everyone's just like, we're going to keep it on our shelf because it's cool Spooderman.
Well, then the fucking weird people who are way too into Twitch have way more power than Russia does because they
Right.
are loaded with them.
Well, it's the right to bear Funko. That is our 69th Amendment.
Is that part of it? The second, well, most Funko Pops have arms, so the right to bear arms.
The right to bear arms,
Oh, hey. Some of them
right.
are just blob things.
What Alfred did have, as I said before, railroads were the key to any steel firm at this point. That was where they were like, all right, if you can't make good railroad parts, you're going to go out of business. Now, it's easy to make springs and axles and rails. Those are very simple. Cast them, melt them out, send them away. The real trick for all steel firms at this time were the wheels. They're called the tires, but if you picture a rail car, it's the wheels. Yeah. The problem was no one could do a no-weld wheel because it had to be It has to have like that curve. It has to be a single piece of metal, and it has to be perfectly uniform, because if it's not, people are going to die because the trains aren't going to run. Alfred, this is where his genius comes into focus. He comes up with a method of using centrifuges and a lathe to create the first ever no-weld railroad wheel. And in 1853 begins mass production on these. He has the patents in every country, so this is when the Krupp firm takes off.
Right.
All because of railroad wheels.
He's been showing off this cannon, and everyone's, oh, that's real cool, that's real cool. But now all the Carnegies and Vanderbilts are like, my dick is so hard for you right now, brother.
Yeah, it was especially selling it to the U.S. That was his probably his biggest customer.
Yeah, because we're all about railroad. We love our choo-choos. There's those people that just look at choo-choos all day, and that's how they get off. And they also look at they draw pictures of centaurs.
I don't want you making fun of autism like the way you have been recently on the show. It's really disturbing. So you don't have any heart, do you?
Some people just like to look at trains. I don't get them.
I love the train TikTok guy.
I have a cousin who likes to look at trains, okay?
Mike loves looking at trains.
Mike loves. That's why he's
That's where he is right now. Yeah, he's sitting at the Long Island Railroad looking at all the trains.
That's why he's always skating under the train station.
It's like, what are we doing today, Mike? Oh, skate down to the train station. Look at him chooch.
Look at him choochies.
360 choo-choo.
The Krupp firm is selling 15,000 of these wheels a year. They would continue to sell 15 to probably 30,000 a year for decades. Awesome. So much so that later in life, Alfred would make the Krupp firm symbol 3 interlocking wheels. And everyone else who didn't know about the wheel thing thought it was 3 interlocking gun barrels, but it was actually the railroad wheels, because that's what saved the firm. Okay. And the Krupp firm, which still exists today, still has that as their logo, 3 interlocking wheels.
Right, that's kind of like one of those little tidbits when people are like, BMW is a propeller. And you're like, no, it's not.
So it was Mercedes.
Yeah.
What are those? I don't even know.
Propellers.
They're both
they're supposed to be propellers, yeah.
I thought they were just German.
No, they were producing the Luftwaffe's airplanes.
Yeah, they were bombing London.
I thought they just liked symmetrical shapes, the Germans.
I mean, that too.
Yeah.
Because design is one
thing. The Krupp one is also symmetrical. It's it's a very cool logo. Anyway, so yeah, the wheels, that's how the company is going to make all their money, and it's going to fuel the arms production that's soon to come. The only place he's struggling to sell the wheels is actually, weirdly, in his home of Prussia, because he had snubbed the Prussian Minister of Commerce, August von der Heydt, and for suspecting him of corporate espionage. But what that led to is that he didn't get the patent renewals that he needed to really just crush the market with these wheels. But he got a stroke of good fortune in October of 1858, because his good pal Wilhelm is now the regent king of Prussia, taking over for his invalid brother.
Good.
Wilhelm overrules von Heydt, gives Alfred the patent renewal that he needs, and cites the fact that Alfred hasn't been selling guns to any other countries, so I want to reward him. This is ignoring the fact that he had started selling guns to Egypt.
He's selling guns to Egypt?
Yeah.
Well, to shoot the aliens down. They're taking over all the space with pyramids. We need this space to look at our sand.
And he'd only sold 2 or 3 cannon to Egypt, but it was still his first sales. And he's basically at the point where he's going to give up on the arms production.
Tom, what are these Egyptians going to do to fight the aliens with these guns? Come on. They got mind things they can do to you.
Not if you're smelling horse manure.
Well, I'm just saying that the ancient aliens have the body of a horse and the torso of a man.
The centaurs did build all the pyramids, as we've discovered during this episode.
Why do you think they're shaped like that? Because horse can't climb upstairs.
Because they're
so
smart
they can climb
fast.
up a slope.
I don't think that's true at all. Connor, why don't you continue? But Travis, hold that thought. Maybe we'll keep that going at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
All right, so it's the 1850s, and Prussia, we'll do a little Prussian politics right now, is starting to gear up for some big moves. Wilhelm is a capable leader, and he has a good friend by the name of Otto von Bismarck, who's going to be his right-hand man.
Busy, Bismarcky.
Now, it's important to remember what the wider world thought of Prussia and Germany at this time, because we have 2 world wars, the Cold War and the late 19th century to think of.
And techno.
And techno, that's
Yeah.
true.
Scooter.
Because at the time, everyone was like, it's England, it's Russia, it's France, kind of Italy, and Germany's just a backwater. Ignore it. Who gives a shit? Doesn't need to be mentioned. And Austria was a superpower.
I guess what you're trying to say is that there was a sentiment that we would never utter now, which is Germany. They could do no harm.
They can do no harm. Right. They're just nice, peaceful farmers.
Right. Even the Germans now are like who are begging for forgiveness to the banks exclusively.
Yeah.
They are. No one would utter that.
No,
there, even as a joke. We can utter that here because we had the First Amendment,
right?
And we have fun. They don't have fun.
Yeah. So
look at the little Germans.
See, we could do that all day. We'll never get any kind of reprimanding for making fun of Germans.
Yeah.
We just can't. It's impossible.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's not the first thing that comes to your brain when you think of. You don't think of the
Right. We could do no harm. I think of that because I forgive.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, no one at the time could have guessed that within the next 30 years, all the weird German states would become the superpower on the continent. It would be like if right now if like in the next 30 years, a superpower formed out of like the soup that is like the Central African nation states.
Yeah, isn't that Wakalanda? What Wakjawanda?
Wakanda. Yeah, that's a Marvel
Wakanda.
state.
It would be
actually.
like if all of Germany or all of Africa like unified into one superpower and conquered half of the world in 30 years.
Do you mean
that's kind of like what is about to happen to Germany?
the Marvel ethno state?
Yes, the Marvel ethno state of the Marvelverse.
They did.
Mark Ruffalo at their head.
It's them, not us. I don't like it. They had
Is
Andy
that- wait,
Serkis
is
as the
that-
bad guy?
Is that before? I'm not thinking about my future history right now. Is that before or after they changed the Sahara to Tatooine?
That is
the
before.
name of it.
That
Okay,
is before.
okay.
Yeah.
Because you
making
gotta
sure.
get the white money there first.
Oh, okay.
You gotta bring it back.
Then
Bring
you
the
make
gold
Yeah,
home. And then
When it's okay to call those people Sand People or Tusken Raiders.
Tusken
Yeah,
Raiders.
then it's okay. Then it's Tatooine.
Yeah, but that's in the future. It's not racist in the future after Marvel says it's okay.
I need to be
Well,
very
Disney
clear
said
to
it was
every
okay.
listener that this is none of the terms we're using are not without the bounds of Marvel and
Yeah.
Star
Of
Wars. And these are all terms that I would never use these freely without a trademark reference.
They're making a Latina Snow White. Latinx
Whoa!
Snow White. So come on.
all right. Stop
They're
it.
progressive.
Stop it. Ridiculous.
They are.
Ridiculous.
All right. So Prussia, like I said, backwater. No one cares about it except for, Wilhelm. He was like, no. We're going to be the superpower nation that I believe we can be. Finally, his brother dies. Now he's full king, not the regent. He's got all the power. And like I said, Alfred was just at the point of he was about to give up on doing massive arms manufacturing because he saw there was no money in it. He was not making enough sales. When Wilhelm looks at him and goes, I need 206-pound guns. Here's 100,000 thaler advance, and I'm also exempting all of your Krupp workers from mandatory military service because they're already doing enough work for our Great Reich. Pretty big deal.
Great Reich.
This is the second Reich.
Number
Right.
2, though.
Yes.
Not
This
the
is
third.
Mario-
Not the third. We're not there
Yeah,
yet. This
So,
is the second.
so you mean we're talking about good guys now?
This is Super Mario Brothers 2.
Right. Everyone ignores it, but we should acknowledge it to some extent.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So Wilhelm does another tour of the factory. He's also, at the same time, pushing through a shit ton of military reforms, expanding the size of the Prussian military, reforming the officer corps. And in Krupp, he is like, that's the guy that is going to supply the arms for my army. He recognized in Krupp, like, he's a mad genius, and I know he's going to get the job done.
Awesome.
Alfred meets Otto von Bismarck at this time. They get along famously. They loved each other. They're like best buds. And this further brings Alfred into the royal circle. And it's these keys, these royal connections are going to be key for Krupp for the rest of his life. Because to him, if Prussia is doing well, then Krupp will do well. And if Krupp does well, it'll bring Prussia up. It's, it's like all boats rise in a rising tide type of thing.
Gotcha.
And he's like tying his fate to the Prussian state.
Do you think the royal and political people just kind of tolerated him around? Like, we have to like this guy. You know what I mean?
I think some of them genuinely liked him because they didn't see the day-to-day craziness of him.
Okay. So he could suppress his craziness a little bit.
He kind of like could turn it off if he needed to, and then the more power he got, the less he did that, and the more they're like, wow, what a fucking weirdo we've brought into the world.
Okay.
The morning routine is where he became most violent in his retardation.
Yeah. So we're getting into the 1860s, and for those who know your history, you know that big changes are coming in Germany. Alfred's experimenting with new designs, even though all of the military brass that he's interacting with are like, no, we still want smooth bronze barrels, not rifled steel barrels. And he goes, I know you're not even accepting my primitive steel cannons. Now I'm going to make an advanced steel cannon. I'm making breech-loading cannons.
Oh,
For those
shit.
who know your military history, your military technology, that is a gigantic breakthrough. Before this was always the muzzle loading, which is you get a barrel, put a shit ton of gunpowder, shove it into the back, get a cannonball, shove it down, light it all on fire, and it shoots it out. He's doing breech loading, which is picture like a twin barrel shotgun, where you put the cartridge in, fold the barrel up, shoot.
Right.
It's faster. It's a better gun, but everyone thought it was more dangerous because with bronze it would be, but not with steel.
Right.
Steel. That's the key to all this.
Dang.
So now he's selling guns. All of a sudden, the guns, they're flying off the assembly line. It's the early 1860s. Russia comes to their senses and becomes his biggest client. They're buying cannons like no one else.
When you say guns, Connor, is he making other things besides cannons,
no, all
too?
cannon. No small arms.
Okay.
All
No small arms? Okay.
6-pound guns, 12-pound field guns, mountain guns, which are designed to shoot high or low, at extreme angles. And this is the first time he is given a name that he will love so much that he basically turns it into an informal royal title. I will try to pronounce it in German as Der Kanonenkönig, the Cannon King.
Oh.
And
I will shoot so hard
Yeah.
and long.
This is the mid-1860s. At this point, there's no denying that the Krupp firm is going to be the dominant industry in all of Prussia. He raises the old factory to completely rebuild it at 3 times the size.
Awesome.
That little cottage that he had watched his father pass away and shrivel and die in, destroyed, but Alfred rebuilds it to the T. Or I don't think he even destroyed it. I think he just moved it, but preserved it completely because he's like, I want to remember my family's humble roots.
Weird.
And that
Humble.
cottage is still, a recreation of it still exists. Because the Allies bombed it to fucking hell in World War II. But the Krupps that came after World War II rebuilt it.
We must remake my great-grandfather's house.
Yeah.
We will rebuild. Never forget
So
the
whatever
fat
I
man.
want, I'm the Koning.
We're going to pause our story here where he has just been crowned the Cannon King because big changes are coming for all of Europe, and Alfred is going to be a major reason why. But just as a quick rehash, remember he started with 7 employees.
Yes.
He is now employing, I think, 5,000 men. And that is in a
5,000, what are they?
span
Croupineers
Croupineers
or something?
Croupineer.
So yeah, from 7 to 5,000 in about a 25-year span, and now he's buying up coal mines all across Europe because he wants to secure a future for his factory, I guess.
Gosh.
So that's where we're gonna pause it. We'll be back with more horse shit man next week.
I love this guy.
He's on.
I love
he's on
this
that.
guy.
He is fun. He is the kind of guy who maybe is at a bar early in the day so he can get back to work.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like if you wander into a bar at 4:30 in the afternoon and he is sitting there looking at the quick draw trying to calculate what the digital monster is doing.
Yeah.
He will never grasp that, but he knows back at the factory that he can be the king. He can be the Koenig.
And the whole time he's looking at QuickDraw, he's writing off little memoranda
Yeah.
and little notes to
I know
his subordinates.
That shape looks like a gun.
That looks like another gun.
Yeah, it must be what doesn't melt steel beams makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Connor, thank you very much for bringing in this research. I'm excited for
Can't
next
wait
week.
for part 2. I can't wait to tell you guys about the house he's going to build.
The House of Krupps.
The Villa Hugel. Yeah.
So I'm trying. So his wife she's out of the picture pretty much for the rest of the.
We're going to mention Bertha a few times, but it's mostly, like I said, Alfred running to her during his own fits of, like, losing his mind, and she is always just, like, real bummed to see him. And it's like, why are you here? But she'll come around every time that he has to, like, put on the family front. It's like, we're hosting the King of Prussia. You need to be home. And she'd be like, okay.
Right.
Or we're hosting the King of France or the King of Italy because his house is going to become where all the royals go to buy their cannon.
Interesting.
So whenever they have to do that official duties, she'll be around.
Bertha, shut the fuck up! I told you to come over. Do not make yourself any more present than just being here.
She would be yelling that at him because he loved her. He'd be
Yeah.
like, Bertha, why don't you stay with me? And she'd be like, Alfred, you smell like horse shit.
All right. Not, then
And he'd
not
be like,
truly a
yeah, I
businessman.
know I smell like horse shit.
Alfred would make he would make like little like X's on the floor where she needs to stand just so like, and she'd be like, all right, I need to be
I
here
love
for
you.
like
Could
5
you please
minutes.
stand here. Also,
Yeah.
why are several of my children black?
Honey, if you're going to yell at me,
coal.
here's the form letter I think you should fill out to yell at me.
Yeah. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah.
Here's a Rorschach chest for you. Can you describe words?
Yeah, so that's
well,
Alf. That's the first part of Alf.
I'm so excited for next week.
Yeah, so join us again next week when we get back into Alfred Krupp, the Cannon Master. Was it Der Koenig, right?
Der Kanon and Koenig.
Der Kanon and Koenig.
Here, that's a spelling.
Der Kanon and Koenig. Ich liebe dich. Ich
Danke
liebe
schön.
Essen. Danke schön.
Danke schön.
You said all the German
Auf
words I know.
Wiedersehen. Danke schön.
Verstehe Deutsch. I don't know.
Fraulein.
anything. Fraulein.
Ja. Fraulein Deutscher, ja.
Do you like hamburger
Haben Sie gut
sandwiches?
geschlafen? Ja.
This is the section of Roast Mortem that's brought to you by Duolingo. Shiny Danky.
Learn how to make fun of Germans on Duolingo.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, German people that listen to our show, by the way. Danky Shane.
Thanks to anyone who's listening. Go to socialmedia.com. That's what we're doing from now. I've condensed it. I don't know how to do those smart links that Zwick did for us a while ago, so I'll do it verbally. Go to socialmedia.com to find us. Beyond that,
Do it.
Thank you for listening. Connor, thanks again. Travis, love you. Good night.
Danky
See you
Shane.
guys next week.
Hell yeah.
Early birds getting that worm out west.
Yeah, so hello, welcome to Roast Mortem. It's the only show worth quoting on any of your thesis papers. We're doing a morning show. If I didn't lay that on thick enough, it's different.
Yeah, I still have my morning wood. It's still burning off. It usually takes about 5 hours or so for it to go down.
You've never called a doctor ever, have you?
No, I don't believe in doctors. Well, my doctor is Anthony Fauci. He's a very busy man. It's hard for me to get an appointment. So,
It's been a couple of years without a checkup for Travis.
yeah.
You know, Anthony Fauci's just in his room playing Final Fantasy. Don't bother me. I'm putting a
Fantasy
world
8.
together. Did we even introduce ourselves? We don't do this in the morning. I'm Tom.
I'm Travis.
And I'm Connor.
No Mike
And
again.
it's still the morning.
Yeah.
It's still the morning.
Really
How's
is.
your morning? How's your morning, guys? How's your morning?
Well, it's very snowy out here. Yesterday was a snowstorm, in fact.
Yeah, can you even see out of your window there? You're in the basement.
Yeah, I boarded that up.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to
No
see
snow
outside.
drifting through.
I'm not happy with the snow. I did have to go to the hospital today to take a COVID test pre-surgery.
Oh, yeah.
And when I got there, I was only there for like 3 minutes because you get in the car You get in a line on the car, and they're like, "Hey, you have an appointment?" They go, "Yeah," and they do the swab right there. So the woman's like, "Have you had COVID recently?" I said, "Yes, I've had that fake disease." And she goes, "Well, then why are you here? Didn't they clear you?" It's like a 90-day thing. And I was like, I tried to, but the nurse didn't listen because these people don't listen. So I'm a little worried. I'm going in for tonsils, might get my balls scraped out.
What are these big boys here? We got to take those off.
Yeah, so that's my
Just remember to sit in the right place. That way your head is where the surgery is going to be. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm going to wear a shitty diaper. So
Yeah.
if, like, that does happen, it's like, how? How did you get that far?
You know, wear a chastity belt maybe? Just really keep it all protected?
Maybe I'll just rubber band it up so it looks weird. And he's like, whoa, it looks like a Pinhead.
A little zippy.
Yeah, scary. I'll powder it. I'll put a Jack being rough around it. Connor, how's your morning going?
My morning's been good. Also dealing with the snow. Walked to the store today, trudging through all the slush. Nothing like that good New York City slush after a snowstorm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
City is hell when it's snowing.
Real goopy. It's already like deep black color, not even brown. Just skips right to like just this heinous looking thing. It's great.
Yeah. Talk about dirty diapers. That's like New York City snow after one day.
Yeah.
This is why people pay extra
Yeah.
to live like that. I think it's good. I think it keeps you grounded.
It's culture.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's what Frank Sinatra was singing about.
yeah.
Travis,
Oh, I mean, I just woke up, so I really haven't done anything with the Starbucks. Did see Nightmare Alley last night.
Oh, how
Probably
was
one of the best movies I've seen in like a decade. Really good.
what is that one
It's a
again?
long time frame.
Yeah, it was Del Toro, Guillermo del Toro, Bradley Cooper. It's about like a dude who joins like a circus, and then he becomes a magician and like a clairvoyant. It's like a lot of the shit that we talk about. These like fraud people that like we did with Helen Duncan and all these people that are like they start off as like magicians, and then all of a sudden they see the money of like, you know, becoming like a clairvoyant and talking with the dead. And it was a really good movie.
All right.
I had given up on Guillermo del Toro because of the Shape of Water.
Oh, I hated The Shape of Water. I don't want to
The
have
Shape
sex
of-
with fish people. It was terrible.
That was a
haven't
bad
seen
movie.
it.
That was
This
like,
one's-
I don't know, and it climbed the Academy Awards, which further proves the narrative of them sucking asses.
Well, this one's been like getting shit on by critics, and I'm like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Like, so it just came out. Apparently, it tanked in the fall. It came out in color, but he shot it for it to be black and white. So right now in the theaters, you can see it in black and white. And that's what I saw it, and it's fucking rad.
All right, I'll give it a shot. Your
Yeah.
taste is pretty good.
Check it out.
I mean, it's got Willem Dafoe in it. He plays a
Oh.
mean carny guy who turns people into geeks.
You could have said Willem Dafoe is a carny and
Yeah.
then not anything else. And I'd be interested in watching.
Yeah, turning people into geeks is what he does in his free time. So I can imagine he does it fantastically on screen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to part 2 of this. Krupps. Connor.
Alfie boy.
Alfie.
All right. So I think we left off last time. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the mid-1860s, and the Krupp firm is on the ascendance. They've got their patented railroad wheels. They're starting to sell some guns, and things are looking good for Alfred. One big thing, though, is that he's been selling these cannons, making these cannons, loves his cannons, but they hadn't gotten used in a major war at all. Not that Europe was like super peaceful at the time, but just his customers weren't fighting with them on any large-scale battles. That's all about to change, and change big time in the next 10 years. Because in 1864, Prussia and Austria are going to war with Denmark, of all places.
I want to go to war with Denmark. Why are they so goddamn happy? Well, those countries, they're too happy. You know when someone's like too cheery to you, like an Outback waiter who sits down next to you and gives you the pumpernickel bread. I don't trust them.
Yeah, it's
Now-
like, cool it, pal.
I'm not making a joke here, but I think a big part of their happiness and this like weird facade they put on, I think they're all criminals, firstly, because I think they hate black people. That's really the Denmark way.
Well,
Historically speaking, they're not very kind. Don't they have that whole holiday where it's like they all put on blackface?
yeah, but you know that we probably would have the same holiday if there wasn't as many black people in America because we're all so terrible.
Look, as weird as it's been recently, at least we're facing these problems. Over there, they're just like, maybe we just don't publicize them as much. And they're going
Stop
to turn
telling people about Blackface Day.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's going to be a weird, like, get out situation happening in that area of the world very soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was why Prussia and Austria wanted to go to war with Denmark. Maybe it played a role. But mainly, it was Prussia had designs on this area of land that Denmark controlled. This was before Denmark was just that tiny little peninsula, like stub, like skin tag on Germany's north border, basically.
Okay.
They controlled a lot of that land. So Prussia and Austria decide, no more, we're going to sweep through and conquer it. And sadly for our boy Alfred Krupp, they do such a good job that the artillery doesn't see much action. It performs well when it's needed, but it's such a quick war that no one really knows. It hasn't met its acid test yet, basically. But the business is still looking great. The U.S., just coming out of the Civil War, their industry is not geared towards the railroads. So that allows Alfred to start selling more and more railroad wheels because the U.S. steel industry hasn't taken off just yet.
Got to get in there so you can build your choo-choos.
Yeah.
I love watching the choo-choos. See, this is why we can't record in the mornings, because this is my designated time to watch the choo-choos. I sit on the train tracks. I pick up dead raccoons and shit that have been hit the night before, so the choo-choos stay clean. And then I watch the choo-choos all day.
Yeah, you're not excited enough right now. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
we're all not that excited right now because of the time of the day. But
Choo-choos.
either way, choo-choos. Think about your choo-choos. Start stomping on the ground like you do. There we go. There,
Yeah.
that's Travis. There he
Alfred
is.
helped build all those choo-choos. You're going to be excited to learn about Alfred.
Oh, okay, cool. More choo-choos, please.
Well, we're about to turn away from the choo-choos and back to the guns because despite just helping conquer Denmark together, Prussia and Austria not being friendly anymore, and it looks like war is about to break out between the Prussians and the Austrians.
No good.
No good at all.
No bueno.
The Prussians, so Kaiser Wilhelm and Otto von Bismarck, go to Krupp and say, hey, we know you've been selling weapons to the Austrians also. You should probably stop selling weapons to the Austrians, considering you're a Prussian and we're about to go to war with them. And Alfred either pretended to not understand why this would be a problem, or ignored that everyone thought it was a problem, and just continued to try to sell guns to both sides of the war.
It's like, sorry, I don't speak German. Like, what are you talking about?
It's like, Alfred, you are German.
He speaks in Benjamins, per se, which is a currency they don't use.
Yeah.
Right.
And Merkel's.
Yeah, Merkel's. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah, but he truly didn't understand why people would be upset when it's like he is a Prussian selling arms to the Prussian army and now is selling arms to the Austrians who are going to go to war against the Prussians.
It's just gun.
Yeah, it's just a gun, man. Like, come on. And this is going to be a recurring theme for the entirety of not just Alfred's life, but like the whole Krupp family. So, for example, in World War I, as the British and Germans are shelling each other, the British shells had imprinted on the side of them the word Krupp, because that was part of the patent that they had in Britain, was then no matter when it was made, it had to have the Krupp name on it.
Oh, okay.
So the Krupp shells would be bombing the Germans in World War I.
Ooh.
Yeah. But we'll get to that later, eventually. Because war eventually breaks out between Prussia and Austria. Everyone's expecting a long war that Austria will most likely win. And in 7 weeks, the Prussians mop up the Austrians completely. They completely smash them.
It's a quick smash. What is the name of that conflict? Or is it just does it have a name?
Austro-Prussian War. It's the one,
Austro-Prussian.
so it's like the 3 series of wars that unified Germany. It's the war with Denmark, the war against Austria, and then the war against France that we'll talk about later.
I feel like there's so many little tiny wars that everyone forgets about in like the 19th century. I mean, obviously, like one of the bigger ones that I guess some people know is like Crimea and all that stuff. But there's all these little tiny little ones that you're like, oh, that's a little baby war. They didn't even have any choo-choos in that country.
Yeah, well, we're like very focused on the macro level stuff. Like we were given the Great War and then the sequel.
Yeah.
And that's what we're taught as Americans. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the Revolutionary, Civil. We only know 4 wars, a disagreement, and then hippies being mad. That's all we know.
Yeah, it's true.
And then when we beat the terrorists, don't forget
Yeah.
we beat the terrorists, Tom.
We're still fighting that war.
And we're still beating them.
Well, we just
That's
can't
what
let
they
them
tell
win.
us.
We just can't let them win. That's all. They can keep playing. They can do really, really, really well. We just can't let them win in the end.
As long as you're not afraid, we've won.
I'm just glad Biden took the troops out so we can continue the war over here and really focus our efforts.
We gotta start just like, I don't know. There's no urban warfare left. We gotta just start it in the streets with our army.
Let's get Kurt Russell on the phone. Let's have him do some set decorating
Yeah.
and get to war.
A little street war. So at the end of this one, though, Prussia is now representing all the German states. There's this big thing called the North German Confederation, but still no Germany. Alfred didn't care about any of this. All he was thinking about this whole time was, are my guns doing well? Are my babies performing as they should? And that was how he referred to them in his letters that he sent to the general staff that he was friendly with. He would like ask after his children, but what he meant was, how's the artillery doing?
Nice.
One of his friends, a General Konstantin Voigt-Retz, wrote to Alfred and said, "These children of yours conversed for long, hot hours with their Austrian cousins."
Ew, that sounds kind of that sounds like a Pornhub write-up.
Little vaguely sexual, right?
That phrasing is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is some Arrested Development style phrasing.
Yeah, these
Also-
children of yours.
Also, I feel like it doesn't matter what you make. If you call your product children, they're like automatically like a Bond villain. Like you're
Yeah.
making donuts, and you're like, "How are my children? Would you like a dozen of my children for you, please? Would you like coffee with those children?"
I think
like
using the
making-
possessive "my" makes it
Yeah.
creepier.
Yeah, that makes it creepier.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you could say
Making-
the. I feel like the is even worse.
Yeah, but
Would
the
you-
children is
Oh,
bad,
no.
but the anything is okay. Anything but children or babies. But the product name is fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but-
oh yeah, okay.
It's like, even if you're making life-saving like cancer medicine, if you ask like, "Oh, did my children do well?" You'd be like, "I'll keep the leukemia, maybe." Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go somewhere else.
I don't want your children inside of me if that's what you're trying to refer to.
Oh, bring me your sick child. I have children to put in them.
Yeah, my vaccine is just like a spider laying eggs in your neck. My children will emerge.
Cool.
So, Alfred's children had most of the part done well, but there were a few setbacks that would drive Alfred insane. Because despite, like I said, for the most part, they performed well, there were a few cases where because these are breech loading, which is like a revolutionary technology that no one trusted, anytime they'd misperformed, it was like a spotlight shining on them.
Right.
And there were 3 or 4 instances where a gun exploded and destroyed the gun and killed the crew and surrounding soldiers. So Alfred was freaking out. And again, this is minor instances.
That also happened with the traditional bronze cannons like all the time though.
Yeah. And
So
even the ones that didn't like malfunction like this were outranging the Austrian cannon and like paving the way to the victory of the Prussians. But because there was these 5 instances, everyone's like, "Oh no, maybe not, maybe back to bronze."
that's why we got to start making nuclear power plants again. There's just a couple little incidents, little baby boys, Chernobyl. Now we have better foxes in Chernobyl they're evolving.
I'm 100% pro-nuclear.
Me too.
Oh, we all should be pro-nuclear.
Yeah, it's
great
crazy that
energy.
like the boomer hippies are like, no, it's going to destroy our Earth that we destroyed.
So keep burning coal.
Yeah. Like even the ones who are like eco-friendly, who don't understand anything about it and haven't read an article about it since the 60s. And they're like, no, it's bad. It's just like, there's
really?
a couple problems that did happen, but now I think we should trust it.
And they go sunbathing every day and get irradiated by the sun. They're like, it's bad.
It's
So
real
bad for you. It's so bad.
So Alfred does not celebrate this victory of Prussia at all. Instead, he leaves Essen the moment he gets these letters saying that like some of the guns malfunctioned, and flees to the southern French shore to Nice, where his wife Bertha and his son Fritz are hanging out.
Nice.
Now it seems like when he showed up, because again he flew into a panic and took the next train there. When he shows up, Berta's like, whoa, what are you doing here? Why are you here? This is my place where I get to hang out with all my friends and the people I'm cheating on you with.
Right. And he paid for the place, right?
Yeah. And he's paying for the place and he's freaking out. He's like, we're ruined. The firm's going to go under. No one's going to buy from us ever again. Which is not true. Because again, it was only a few instances where the guns didn't perform. But he stays away from Essen for over a year. Still, like, he's like staying in his bedrooms for days on end, not talking to anyone, just like scribbling off little notes in pencil. Kind of loses it a little bit.
Okay.
People just come in to visit him. He's get out of my zone! Get out of my zone, dog!
He eventually recovers, mostly because he just starts working harder and harder. It's around this time that the Bessemer process is introduced. This is another like steel innovation that starts in England and spreads. So now he can like build even bigger and bigger factories. And at this point, everyone is saying, all the German generals are saying, we should equip the entire army with Krupp steel cannons. So he is starting to finally win the war over bronze. And he offers to swap out 400 of the older guns for 400 newer ones. Everyone loves that. They're like, oh, he's like, I fixed the problem that caused those 5 to explode, and I'll replace all of them free of charge.
But he gets to take
service.
the steel and reuse the material, right?
Yeah, like
So-
he's like, it's just replacing them. But this is also, he's like kind of revolutionizing these business practices because most firms weren't doing stuff like this. And this is just another one of his like weird innovations that he kind of stumbles upon.
He's the Selfridge of arms deals.
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah.
The war criminals always come first.
Oh, absolutely. Always.
Every time.
So after the war with Austria has been over, now Alfred goes right back to selling guns to anyone who will buy them. His dream customer is the British. That's who he always really wanted to sell the guns to because, again, this guy loves the English so much he changed his name to a more English version.
I think I'm going to do that. I want to change my name to Lee to Smith. From Lee to Smith. It's a little bit more English.
I feel like that's less British.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe, I don't know, Waddingford.
Just
There
change
we
your
go.
middle name to Crumpet.
Crumpet, okay.
Crumpet. Travis Crumpet Lee.
Yeah.
And you just have to start going by the full name. You just...
Yeah.
I was in a Wikipedia hole, and I discovered that one of the guys behind some of the Bond films, his last name was Broccoli.
Oh,
So I
it's
thought of
chick,
you.
Barbara Broccoli. She still produces them.
Oh, does she? Oh,
Yeah.
the father or
Or it's-
whatever.
Yeah, I guess like she took over, I think, in the 80s or something.
Love these broccoli people. Very English.
Very
I have
English.
a friend of a friend whose last name is spelled similar to broccoli, but it's pronounced broccoli, but everyone just calls him broccoli.
That's broccoli.
I know, right? It's like, come on, just go with it.
Changed my first name to Brock.
Yeah.
Brock Lee.
Yeah. There you go.
So in 1868, Alfred has one of his favorite things to do. He has a big exhibition again. So guess what? Time to display a new gun. This one a 14-incher, which is the diameter of the barrel, so you can see how big these guns are getting.
Wow.
And another big steel ingot, because who doesn't love a big steel ingot?
Did this one break through the floor and almost kill the judges
No.
again?
He sent ahead and told them how much it was going to weigh, and then sent like his own steel support beams to reinforce the floor before bringing his 88,000-pound steel ingot.
88,000 pounds?
88,000.
Why didn't they just leave it outside? What's the point of reinforcing the floor? Just put a tent over it and leave it outside.
Because everyone loved it so much when it broke through the floor last time. Let's see if it can break through the reinforced floor.
Here we are. We're gonna set this up here, and just to prove how good we are at reinforcing these floors, we're gonna put the revolutionary cribs that we've been developing with these babies in it, and we'll see. I mean,
We'll see
I have
how
a
it
lot of
goes.
faith in these beams, but if not, it'll still be a show.
My giant child was coming.
They're all orphans, by the way, so no worries.
Yeah. Now, this was an exhibition in Paris, so of course he's trying to sell guns to the French, despite the fact that German and French tensions are starting to boil up at this point. He reaches a deal with the French to sell them cannon, but it's only stopped when a French firm kind of goes public and is like, hey, the French government's going to buy from Germans, not French, and they have to back out. He's still selling guns to the Russians. He is actually, the Russians are his largest client at this point. He's selling all the cannons he can to the Tsars. And he would continue to do that for the rest of his life. Russia would always be his biggest supplier, and then eventually it would be Germany, but for the most part it was Russia. And he saw no problem with this. He just thought it was fine. You know, like, no, I sell guns to everybody. Anyone who wants them can buy them.
Krupps doesn't kill people. The other people do.
Yeah, nation states don't kill people. Not just the cannons that everyone sells to them.
My children decimate them.
I mean, like, it's just evening the playing field. Let's be real. Like, there's some political pushback on this because, of course, you don't want them to have these premium guns, your enemies.
Yeah.
But, like, in all fairness, if you're going to war, you're going to war. And you gotta bring the right pair of boots.
Yeah, it'd be like Tom. Like, would you like to play an excellent round of Halo Infinite with me? But you have to use like an old Atari joystick to control Master Chef.
Exactly.
Yeah, Master Chef.
You're playing on an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so Alfred, though, the firm was just growing so powerful at this point that one French foreign minister called the Krupp firm a state within a state. And he's kind of acting as if he's the head of state. He's receiving royalty at his house, as far as like the Emperor of Japan, governments in South America, all these different governments in Africa and the Middle East continually come to him to try and buy guns. And Alfred was always really jealous when the Prussian government ever tried to buy weapons from another firm. So despite selling to everyone, if Prussia tried to buy from somebody else, he would lose it. He would be like fly into a rage and threaten to move the factory to either... One time he almost moved to Montgomery, Alabama, which, wow, would have been crazy. And then Russia was the place that he was always threatening to go to as well.
That's like a thing that's I feel like just happens all the time now with these big businesses, right? Like that was like Elon, where he's like, "We're moving the Tesla factory," or like, you know, they bid off of these different cities, like, you know, Amazon and Walmart and all that.
I mean, those incentives are very different, though. This is like, hey, you buy from me or else. That's like NAFTA shit.
Yeah,
what you're talking about. That's more like, the taxes are just.
I guess maybe Elon made it a little bit more political with his move. It seemed like it was like semi-Texas and then semi like, I don't want to be around them liberals.
Isn't he like a fake liberal anyway?
He's like an idiot. That's all he is.
Yeah, I don't like him.
He's just not very bright.
No, he's a blood money man, right? Blood diamonds?
Yeah. Blood diamonds.
Blood diamonds.
Come on, Harry.
Scoot around that one.
Yeah. So that's where Alfred is in the late 1860s. And now we got to talk about something that's been near and dear to Alfred's heart around this time. Because he had outgrown, well, obviously, Bertha had left Essen for a while now, so the garden house was a failure. And Alfred was like, I need a proper estate if I'm going to be running this giant empire that I am. So it's time to build me a big country estate in the outskirts of Essen. So for the last 5 years, Alfred had been scouring for architects looking to build his house. He decided on the best architect in all of Europe in his mind, which is himself. So he designed this whole house.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He's like, who else can build a house for me? No one. So it's my turn.
So you mentioned it's also on the outskirts of Essen, so I'm assuming it's still very smoggy. It's still probably not very pleasant to be.
It actually was far enough away to avoid that because... One of his ideas was, one, to build this house to receive guests of honor and all that, And then the second thing was, well, Bertha left because of the smog, so if I move far enough out, maybe she'll come back and live in my house with me.
Oh, okay.
Maybe my wife will come back to me if I build her a big estate.
Maybe she'll send back those scantrons a little quicker.
Yeah. Would you like to move back with me? Yes or no? No.
Yes. Yeah. So he's looking for available land. When I was reading up on it, it's not worth getting into the details, but it reminded me of when Walt Disney was buying up the plots in Florida for Disney World, where it's like through these shell companies and like all these different arrangements. And then once people start to put together, like there's a big buyer coming for this huge tract of land, then the prices start shooting up and all that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So he's eventually able to do it, gets all the land that he needs. He builds this huge tower because it's all these hills that have no trees. So it's all barren. And so he can look around. Builds this huge tower and has it portable, where he would be at the top of the tower and like a crew of workers would move it around while he's like scouting it out until he figured out the best spot to put the foundation.
He's like rich Dale Gribble. Octavio, keep moving. I can almost see the factory.
Little left.
Yeah. That's basically what he's doing. So now he's got his lands. He's got the place where the foundation is. So now it's time to design his dream home. So we've talked about this man for a while now. What do you think his dream home would be like?
I mean, it would definitely have stables.
Oh, yes. Big stables.
Big stables.
Yeah, big part of it.
No doors, because he likes to walk around everywhere.
I don't know about the doors situation, but until like the mid 1900s, which is like 100 years after it's built, no one knew how many rooms it had because it had so many rooms and corridors to like walk around and through.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, lots of different areas for his own breath to.
Yeah, well, I don't
awesome.
think we didn't have like, but this is what, the 1870s now.
Yeah, so this is 1865 is when he started the plans,
All right,
and
so-
then 1870 is when he starts building.
So electricity, not so much, but I was thinking like a fan system. But like maybe,
Yeah, lots of ventilators.
Okay.
He sealed the windows. The windows could not be opened.
Oh, wow.
So he did that and then built a ventilation system throughout the house that would like pump air throughout the rooms. He had this idea that he wanted each room to be able to be temperature controlled, so that was part of sealing the windows. None of this ever really worked out that well. It was constantly under repairs because of this until his grandson in like the 1920s like gutted it and refurbished it in a normal way. But yeah, definitely big. You're getting it all right, Travis.
Really? I'm just going over the things from what I remember in the last episode of what he was like afraid of. He's just like checking all those boxes.
Yep.
No
Staying
fire.
still, man.
It's basically like the Zelda water temple because he hates fire. Am I right on that?
No wooden beams.
Yeah. What?
Smart.
The entire thing was going to be built out of steel and stone. He said no wood in the entire house because he was afraid of fire.
What? Really? Wow.
Yeah, no wood.
I want to see him try to make steel clothing.
Right? He probably was looking at designs for it.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about this house because before I start guessing.
Yeah. So that we got the most for the cover. It's going to be a big grand estate. We got the most part right. It's called Villa Hugel. Hugel means hill, so it's just villa on the hill. Like I said, no wooden beams, only steel and stone. There were no gas mains either because he didn't want gas lines running through the house. So it was always really fucking cold in the winter and really, really hot in the summer because, again, the windows are sealed, there's no gas mains, and there's no electricity.
Yeah, this is what...
And there's 300 rooms of tiny little corridors.
This is what happens to you when you live in the future in your brain,
Yeah.
but you actually live in the past. Like in 1870, and you try to invent HVAC systems.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to fail.
What did he use for light? Because I know there was like gas lighting back in the day.
It was
there
probably
also,
like oil lamps and candles,
okay.
really. But also, because he was an insomniac, he was always up at night and writing in the dark. So he from a young age could read and write in the dark. And so he was always like scribbling notes when he was like in a dark office or in his bedroom.
Like a little vampire boy.
Yeah,
Oh,
right?
he's a weird. I skipped over a part where there's like one story where he just is underneath the covers of his bed for like 48 hours while sketching out plans in the darkness.
I finished. It's like the back of a table mat from like Friendlies or something that a kid scribbles on.
You know, they say carrots is good for your dark vision, your night eye vision, and horses like carrots, and the horse's poop is just carrot meat.
Yeah.
Isn't the carrots are good for your eyes? That's fake.
Yeah.
That was like a propaganda bit or something.
Yeah, it's just like carrots are good for you, so we came up with the idea where it's like, well, if we say it's good for your eyes, then everyone's going to love it.
Well, I think it was a Victory Garden thing.
Oh, okay.
I think they were incentivizing people to grow like the quickest growing cold weather plant that they could.
Yeah.
And
least like intensive.
Yeah, exactly. So like, eat a lot of carrots and grow them yourself, you fucking peasants.
And then you can shoot down the Germans when they invade.
Yeah. Exactly. It all comes together.
That was like the U.S. in the 1970s, where high fructose corn syrup is great for you.
Yeah,
We still haven't learned that lesson.
Yeah, we still haven't really pulled that one back at all, which is very strange. Like, I feel like more people know that carrots are like just okay.
Yeah. Well,
And,
keep raising the tax on my bad cigarettes and keep lowering the tax on high fructose corn syrup, please.
Yep.
They give those farmers money to not be making it, and they still make it because it's such garbage.
Yeah.
And we just keep lapping it up.
I'm a big on
Spoonfuls of
lapper.
it.
Well, you know what? I can't talk too much shit about corn because I like corn nuts. Okay, big corn nuts guy.
Corn is good. Popcorn.
Popcorn's
delicious.
good, but have you really dove into a 5-pound bag of corn nuts before?
I think I've had them before.
Yeah, well,
You've shared them.
that's you're gonna look at popcorn a little differently.
All right,
after you spend a few nights.
So this is a
corn nuts.
low-lit house.
Yeah, so we didn't get to the coup de grace. But first, before that, he also had his master bedroom that he never spent time in because, again, he was an insomniac that was afraid of spending too much time in the room. It was behind 3 sets of locked doors. So no one could get into it unless they went through all 3 locked doors. Which, again, he never spent time in there. But he did know the room that he would spend the most time in. It's obviously going to be his office or his study. So where to put that? Travis, you said stables. That was your first guess.
Yeah.
Because he had big stables. They were on the ground floor. He loved horses. He always had horses. And so there was dozens of them on the estate, always shitting, making good manure for him. Talked about his ventilation system before. Alfred came up with the genius idea. He put his study and office directly over the stables with special filtration pipes that went down to where they would shovel all the horse shit. So that way the manure would just seep right through these pipes and was pumped directly into his office, which had sealed windows. So it was a closed system of just horse shit from ground floor into his office.
Oh, no.
It's like working in a porta potty. I love that. I think it's so good that he just did it. The guys
like
building it were like, "What? Wait, what are we doing here? We're running the poopy duty area into the office. It's going to be closed." And he's like, "Don't question my genius. I have a bedroom that you'll never be able to get into. In fact, I forgot the lock. So
lock's
I will
in
never
there.
get in." I don't know.
Tom,
The lock for door 1 is between 2 and 3. I'm stuck.
I love the idea of working in a porta potty. I'm just imagining some guy in an office like, oh, yeah, I'll work remote. COVID's happening. And he's just like, I've got this mobile office that I bring around. And it's in a fucking porta potty.
Tiny home living.
Yeah.
It's like the
He's like,
same
it's
kind of
IBS,
mental.
It's great.
It's kind of like the same mentality of those sick people who are like, yeah, tiny homes. This is the future. It's just like, awesome, man.
Cool.
This is a vacation at best. You will get sick of this in no time.
You don't want to be able to reach your arms to both walls.
Yeah, you don't want to be able to clean the toilet of the horse manure you brought in here and cut the carrots for the horse at the same time, ever. And this guy's this is a big place, right?
Yeah, it's like a big classic 19th century estate.
Right. So what's happening here is that he is living in the brain of a tiny home person, but with an ever-expanding horizon of industrious nature.
Yeah.
Just building a retard factory to live in.
Yeah, and he's like a bajillionaire, so he just has all the money to spend on any whim he thinks of.
That's great. This guy is awesome.
Connor, I got a question because it kind of refers back to his home. But did this guy have like weird dietary thing? Like, did he eat weird shit too? Because like, I'm assuming there was probably a kitchen with a kitchen staff, and he's probably not cooking his own food.
The book I read didn't really get into it. I think it was for him probably just something. It was just fuel. Like he probably had his weird little habits, but there was nothing so noticeable about. He was always really gaunt, so he probably didn't even eat that much.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was the type of guy where like the kitchen staff made like feasts, and he would just run through, grab a hunk of bread, and like just chew it on the way to the factory.
Right.
He strikes me as that type of guy.
I don't have time to chew or cut up this steak. I'm just going to eat bread.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if he forgot to eat meals multiple times a day.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's like Silas Barnaby looking.
He's such a weird looking guy.
Yeah, breadsticks galore.
You hear all this about him, and then you look at him, and you're like, "Oh, now I can see that man doing all this."
Yes.
He looks like a harmless guy in a bar. You know, when you're just in a dive and you see the one guy at the end of the bar who everyone seems to know and is not alarmed by, but they're just going to sit there and you're going to watch him be sad.
Yeah, and then you start talking to him, and he's talking about the health benefits of huffing manure. And
right.
You're like, ooh, maybe there's a reason you're alone at this bar.
You stay over there. I'm going to go play some pool.
Yeah. So Alfred's got his plans for his home are all set. There's just one problem. Because when he finally lays the cornerstone in early 1870, he had this big plan for all the limestone is going to be imported from this one quarry just outside of Paris. And then France and Germany go to war. Breaks out right as Alfred's trying to get his limestone sent in. And even throughout like the first 4 or 5 months of the war, he was illegally like working with the French to have his limestone shipped to his house while he's selling cannons to the Prussian armies that's invading France.
Never stop business.
Yeah,
right?
no.
Never stops.
Never stop
and
business.
nor does my personal life. I need to keep building my house. I need that limestone.
I mean, how much does the war really affect him? He's coming out on top all the time. Yeah. He doesn't care who's dying. How could you care? I wouldn't care.
Not when you're the one killing them all.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I'm just making these guns. Hey, you're the one pulling them triggers.
Right.
Now, Travis, you were talking about small little 19th century wars. This is not one of those. This is like probably I would say it's the most important war pre-World War One.
Okay.
Is the Franco-Prussian War of 1870. Because for us looking back on it, you know, we think of Germany and immediately the two world wars. At the time, Germany was just this backwater still. And even though they beat the Austrians and even though they beat the Danes, everyone was like, well, they're going to war with France. France is going to destroy them. Even the Germans weren't that confident. The German high command didn't have any offensive like war plans at the time because their whole idea was, well, the French are going to invade us, then we have to repel them, and then how do we fight? So when the war starts, the French don't invade, and the Germans are just kind of sitting there like, oh, I guess they're not going to invade us.
Like they declared war, and then they were both kind of like, who's going to make the first move kind of thing?
Yeah. Both of them were kind of just standing there. And it was this whole diplomatic thing where Bismarck basically tricked the French emperor into declaring war against Germany so that Germany could have like the upper hand morally, I guess. But all that's aside, everyone thinks the French are going to win because they have the chase pot rifle, which is like this standard issue rifle. It has twice the range of the Prussian counterpart. And they have like a Gatling gun that no one else has at this time. It's called the Mitrailleuse or something like that. Some French word, shoots 20 barrels at a time. Everyone's like, oh, French are going to mop up the Germans in no time. What they did not have is Krupp steel cannons. Because the Germans were armed with Krupp 6-pounders that had triple the accuracy of the French counterpart, twice the rate of fire, and over 1.3 times the range. So while the French were like still moving up their artillery, the Prussian artillery could just destroy the whole thing before it was even in position to shoot back.
Artillery's important, man. That's how you win battles.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weapons. That's how war is.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like the first time that a European powers are going to war and one side has a military edge, like technology edge like this. Like it's never happened before or even since. Like it would always be an evil playing field, but for this war, the Prussian artillery is just so much better because of Krupp.
Right, two European nations going together because Europeans love to.
Oh, that's what I mean.
Love to roll through
obviously.
other people.
And it's all thanks to my delicious horse apples. Yes, they gave me the inspiration to wipe out those stinky French people.
You know what horses can't eat? Horseradish. So, and you know what the French don't use? Horseradish. They use garlic. I don't know where I'm going with this.
That is actually 100% true. Horseradish is poisonous.
Yes,
to horses.
I know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you ever need to kill a horse,
They should call it horse poison then.
go to the international aisle or the kosher section.
Yeah.
And,
Can you pass me a little of the horse poison sauce? I want to throw it on my roast beef. Like,
Yeah.
Mr. Ed's been Jewed.
Oh, little horse, stop trying to eat my steaks, please.
Pesky
So-
horse.
this whole war, everyone, like I said, expecting the French to cruise right over them. And in the small, like, group, like unit-to-unit engagements, the French are actually just wiping the floor of the Prussians. But in the big battles, the artillery is just completely going the other way. The war ends basically within a month. Despite everyone thinking this is going to drag on for a year or so and the French are going to win, in a single month, the Germans have destroyed 2 French armies at Metz and Sedan. And at Sedan, they actually captured Napoleon III by surrounding the entire army and just pounding them with cannon.
Dang.
And so they had captured the French emperor. There were 250,000 French prisoners of war and about 80,000 dead, mostly from artillery, within a month. This is like unprecedented. It's so shocking that no one can even really wrap their heads around it at the time.
Yeah, and also you were saying, you mentioned it earlier, is that like France is a big deal. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like
They were the military power
Yeah.
of Europe at the time. And then in a month, the Germans just walked right over them.
yeah. Got to
Now-
watch out for Guatemala. They might take over America. You know what I'm saying?
It would almost be comparable
Yeah.
if like Latin America unified within a 5-year period and then conquered parts of the U.S.
I mean, it's doable. They're hardworking folk.
Yeah. Industrious.
Yes.
Now, even though the war was decided within this first month of fighting, it would drag on for like a year because the French basically don't surrender because they hated Napoleon III. So they're like, fuck you, keep our emperor, we're going to keep fighting. But for all intents and purposes, it's just like, all right, the fighting will just determine the terms of the peace treaty, not who won this war, you know?
Right.
When Napoleon actually surrendered, he goes up to Otto von Bismarck and says, I congratulate you on your army, but above all, on your artillery. Mine was so inferior. So basically, saying that Krupp won this war for them. And Alfred, just for all this that's going on, where it's like his crowning achievement, he is the reason that Prussia is now victorious. He did not even know about it because he kept trying to write letters to get his limestone so that he could build his house. He was just ignoring news of the war because he's like, well, is the quarry open? Can I get my limestone?
Oh my God.
Priorities, man.
Yeah.
I gotta build my outhouse.
Tom, I feel like we've seen people like that thousands of times when we worked in the deli. You guys got the new liverwurst in? Yeah, you got liverwurst still? Oh, God. You know what I mean? It's those people that just like they need to get their one fucking slice of meat.
Yeah. It's like it'd be like if those people won like $200 on a scratcher and then were mad that the liverwurst wasn't back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get some real dumb people. It's fun. I don't know. I was going to talk more about meat, but I think that would be too much of a tangent for the episode. So let's continue.
Meat's never
All
a
right.
tangent.
Well, finally, Alfred gets the news that his cannons have basically won Germany a major war in a month. And he's like, awesome. Now he's exploding with patriotism. He's the most Prussian guy you'll ever find at this time. And he does some pretty remarkable stuff that is like part of this weird dichotomy where he's an international arms dealer, but right after the war, like he hears about this, He sets up pension funds for disabled soldiers. He builds field hospitals in occupied France just on his own cost. He sets up a fund for money to be paid to widows that were made during the war. And all these other things, like he sends a bonus to his croupier, like just becomes the most magnanimous guy you could imagine for this 3-month stretch after the war is over.
Sweet. Rolling it.
Yeah. So part of the war that's like dragging on is Paris is surrounded. This is the Paris Commune of 1870, if you ever heard of that, where the people rose up, declared a republic. It's almost like a proto-socialist state in 1870, just in Paris. And they keep fighting. And it's Krupp cannons that are surrounding and besieging Paris, just shelling the shit out of the city. In a single 3-week period, 12,000 Krupp shells fall on Paris.
Shit.
Bismarck at one point said we should just shell the entire city to rubble as a warning message. And everyone else is like, maybe not. Maybe we shouldn't commit heinous war crimes just to send a message.
Yeah, that's not really sending a message. That's like killing
Yeah.
someone's family and being like, do as
I
I
showed
say
them.
or else.
Well,
Or else what? You just killed them all.
Yeah.
well, I mean, the Americans weren't too. They didn't believe in that in Japan or Germany because I mean, we pretty much wiped Dresden off the map.
Well, well, that, and then also, like, Truman's an idiot. Like, I'm excited to cover Truman because he was such a small penis. You know, like everything about his personality was just like, nope, we're gonna do it because I can. Like
I need to show them.
he had giant shoes to fill, shoes that didn't even walk.
Yeah,
by the way.
shoes that just sat.
Yeah,
Even
just-
treads. Good
yeah.
treads on those shoes.
So he like just made every strong arm move, and like, sure, you ended the war, but I actually don't care. So I don't know why I'm talking like this.
Well, the Paris Commune is one of the first instances of a European power just indiscriminately shelling the capital city of another European power. And that was because made possible by Krupp cannon.
Thank you, Krupps. Brought to you by
Yeah.
Krupps.
The Paris Commune's a cool thing. Like, it's fun. There's so many interesting things that happen with it. And one of the cool things is because they're surrounded and besieged, obviously no way in or out. But it's the 1870s, so how do they send messages and sometimes do food runs? Hot air balloons. So there are a total of like 60 or 70 hot air balloons that just take off in Paris, fly over the German lines, and then like get messages out like that. And so what does Alfred Krupp do in his meantime? He builds the world's first ever anti-aircraft gun, where it's a special artillery piece designed to shoot down hot air balloons.
Oh, that's pretty
Awesome.
badass.
Yeah. And this is the part of Alfred's life, like now that the cannon factory is kind of just a perpetual motion machine at this point, he starts to come up with weirder and weirder plans for guns. And that's kind of like the first one that you'll see. We'll get into them later where they just get weird and strange and non-practical, but, you know, thinking outside the box, making up artillery, anti-aircraft. Pretty cool.
There's a very jealous part of me that wants one of these guns, not just for hot air balloons, but for any enthusiast of any hobby. Because I am jealous of people who have genuine passions about things that they don't hate. Bird watching, things of the nature. I would love to shoot all these people. That would be my hobby.
What about the choo-choo people?
I want them dead. But I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm not doing... This is a sick world I live in. Some people are furries. Other people are internal murderers. And that's me. I admit that. Never going to act these fantasies out. But it's
that's
fun
good.
to think about. I will be really honest. It's very fun to think about just shooting people who are loving life.
Yeah.
See, I just think that those enthusiasts should all have sex together. Like, all the bird watchers have an orgy while watching birds, and the choo-choo men get in a human centipede line and just choo-choo down the railroad.
Well, that's your, like, your passion is just people...
I think orgies is the
Yeah.
passion you're looking for.
Yeah, always talk about holes and places to stick things and dowels and stuff. That is kind of where your head is at in comparison to where mine is, which I just described. So I respect yours because you don't do it in my face. And you seem miserable half the time, so I can respect that.
Well, speaking of happy people, this is probably the happiest Alfred will ever be. Because when the war is over, everyone is looking around and recognizes that it's Krupp steel that won the day. Krupp cannons are the future. And everyone who's anyone is now trying to buy Krupp cannon. And he's selling to everyone. This is when he's just like opens up the books and he is arming everybody in Latin America. In fact, I think most Krupp cannons that still exist from this period are in Latin America as like, what's it called? Monuments. You know how like sometimes people just have an artillery piece as like a monument to a war or something like that?
Yeah.
When you look up Krupp cannon, a lot of them are just like, this is a monument in like La Paz or in Ecuador or in Chile for all these different wars that he was funneling weapons to.
I thought you were going to say they were still active in there.
Well, they probably are. It's good steel, you know? He's selling to Japan. He's selling to China. He's selling to India, I think. And when someone talks to him about this, he writes that he's only giving these people the worst guns, and he's only giving the best guns to the Prussians. He says, quote, "I sell inferior guns to inferior races because they can blow their enemies to bits well enough with these."
Oh.
That's like a Don Rickles from Dirty Work kind of thing. Like, they don't care. Just give them the garbage. They're gonna be blowing up sand anyway. Sakamahaka.
Is he selling to the USA? Are we using his guns?
I don't think so, because this is in the 1870s is when like U.S. steel takes off.
Okay.
And
Pittsburgh, dog.
And so it's also the robber barons are like not letting the American government buy from anyone that's not American.
Okay.
So the U.S. was never one of his major customers outside of the wheels, the railroad wheels. And it's even now in the late 1870s is when that starts to fall off finally. And then the U.S., he just doesn't have a market in the U.S. Basically after 1880 because the U.S. steel is just so dominant. But in Europe, he's still the seller.
Well, military-wise, not what's happening in the States. Like,
right? Yeah, we finished the what's it
Civil
called?
War's over, so it's
War's
like
over.
Reconstruction era. There's not like I don't think there's a huge market for it.
We had those weird like border wars with Latin America and shit like
that.
that.
It's the Native American wars, so it's like there's no need for cannon anyway. You just need muskets.
It's just Texas defining barbecue over and over again.
So Alfred keeps tinkering with his designs, though. He's extending ranges, extending firepower, muzzle velocity, all these technical things. And despite this huge boom in business, he's not doing well fiscally because he's just constantly overextending. He's now buying iron mines all over Europe, especially in Spain, because he's like, I want low phosphorus iron, and all the iron around here is high in phosphorus. I don't know, it's a technical thing. He buys his own fleet of cargo ships because he's sick of going through middlemen, so now he has a navy, basically.
Very smart to do nowadays. Buy your own cargo containers if you're in shipping.
Become a navy.
So he's one of the first to start doing like vertical integration, you know, like buying everything from the raw materials all the way to the moment it's on sale.
That's good.
And he's buying out small competitors too. He wanted to secure enough raw materials for the next 3 generations of Krupps, and with like building in mind that as they expand, they'll need more and more. So that's just how much he's buying to give a picture of it. He knows that demand is going to increase, but he wants 99 years of resources, basically, is what he says. And all this time, he's constantly asking the Prussian government to just give him money to do this, because he's like, well, I'm your arms dealer. You should give me money to do all these things. And they're like, yes, but you're also still selling guns to our enemies. And he's like, yeah, and you should still give me more money. His house is finally done in 1873. He can move in. He hates it almost immediately. He thinks that it has developed a personality and that the house specifically doesn't like him and like goes out of its way to make his life miserable. This is what his belief is.
It's the ghost of that one time he jerked off the Siemens that died. They're haunting him in every corner of the house.
It's the ghosts of all the horse meat he ate. Because they're like, stop smelling my shit, you stupid idiot.
Yeah. The ventilation system isn't working because, again, it's like you said, he's making HVAC in the 1870s, but with no electricity, so the vents don't really work that well.
It's probably rats and shit living in there, little raccoons and fucking little squirrels.
Berta hates it. She doesn't like the house. She just finds it awful because I don't think anyone would like the house.
No surprise there.
Yeah, there's no giant Parisian dongs or wherever she's hiding. Nice dongs.
Yeah, nice.
So despite this, all of his overextending in his materials acquisition, the wheels keep turning because he keeps selling railroad wheels. That's like his saving grace throughout this, is that everyone just loves his wheels, I guess. But that doesn't stop him from continuing to tinker with his arms deals and make better and better cannon. Now, Alfred, top of his game, what else is there to do except go into politics, right?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Because Alfred, like I had said in the last episode, he thought he was the medieval lord of Essen, so that he should take care of his people. So he's building barracks, there are Krupp schools, all the storefronts are run by the Krupps. He's building churches that are staffed by Krupp pastors, and basically Essen turns into the Krupp company town. Like, you know how we've heard about company towns in this period?
Yeah.
Essen, a city of like 200,000 people, is the Krupp company town.
Wow. So you would say that Krupp was like the Ted Cruz of Essen. It's very strong
the Ted
man.
Cruz, the strong man.
The strong man?
I don't even think people that vote for Ted Cruz think he's strong. But we talked about that with Hershey, which I think we brought up on the last episode. Who else did this?
Jacob Fugger, the other German,
Right.
did that.
Germans are all about that.
Germans are all about the company
Yeah.
town.
Yeah. Let's see.
trying to think.
Bath, Maine is like that. That's everyone who works in that town is actually kind of owned by the military to some degree. It's not technically this, but like everyone who works there is worth anything. Works on the what do they call those? Wow, I'm totally blanking. The Navy ships where the planes
Submarines? Aircraft carriers.
Yeah, I don't know why I just blanked on that. The aircraft carriers. That's where they build them. Bath, Maine.
Oh.
So if you go there, you see like these two projects they're working on, and it's all military stuff. It's crazy.
Well, that's like parts of Long Island were like Grumman factory towns.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that's like pretty much every Midwestern town that isn't a city where Walmart is the company town.
Yeah, unfortunately. I got to say, man, it's the saddest thing what happened. Like touring and stopping in towns and like seeing a town where there was just nothing. It was storefronts and now it's just Walmart, and people just seem to like totally accept this. It's like what is it's real. Like all that South Park shit is real. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like we don't see that
crazy.
scale on Long Island, but like these places are just shot.
Yeah, you got your Walmart. Everyone in the town works for Walmart. That's it.
Yeah, there's like
Shops
3
at
other
Walmart.
companies. There's a gas station. It's like,
Yeah.
I remember
that-
being in a town in Oklahoma where there was this venue, and the venue we were playing was in the middle of the town. That was fairly depressed. It was a big space, but every shop outside was just shut. With a lot of them had the all of their material inside too. Like we walked past a sporting place, a kayaking shop that had been shut down for like years. There was just kayaks in the window, like creepy.
crazy.
But that's serious stuff. This is a history show with a comic edge. So let's get back into this.
Yeah, so Alfred, let's get back into the jokes about mixing religions, because that was another thing Alfred was doing right now.
Wait, he didn't like it or he liked it? He liked to mix up.
Depend on your religion, because one of the reasons that the Prussian government loved what Alfred was doing with this is he's mixing the German Protestants and the German Catholics. He's like he's one of the first that's like, no, we're one German people. We're not Catholic or Protestant. But, you know, Jews, no way. Get out of here.
Of course.
Obviously. Strictly verboten.
So he's like trying to make like the Church of Germany, like how they have the Church of England, or it's like this is
He wants
church.
the Church of Krupp, and then just happened to speak German in the Church of Krupp.
Oh, okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
easier to unite under like that. All right, you're a German first, and then you have that religion. As opposed to
Exactly.
like I'm this religion and then second German.
Yeah. So he kind of sets a framework with all these social programs that he's doing for his workers, because he writes out this big long directive that lays out what the firm should expect of their employees and what the employees should expect of the firm. And he creates a health service, a relief fund, pensions, old age homes, life insurance policies, and all these other like hugely progressive things that no one had ever heard of, until he laid it out and was like, this is what the employees should expect of this firm. It's pretty revolutionary. It also
I remember the other company that we talked about on the show that did something similar. This was the Coors company.
Oh, really?
And they were also very like weirdly religious.
Yeah, they were.
And then they eventually formed the Conservative Party in America. But like, I think that in like the late 1800s, they were doing this as well. They had this whole thing where you were part of the company, you were part of the community. We had values that existed in the entire community.
It's a salary man, damn it.
Yeah. Celery man.
Yeah. So this whole program is like so revolutionary that in the later 1880s, after Alfred's gone, the German government, when they create their social program, they cite his document multiple times as like, we're going to do it like this because that's what the Krupps do and it works. It's like, we're going to create a social fund based off what the Krupps do because it works, you know? There's some drawbacks, though, of the document when you get to the part of what the firm should expect of their employees. For instance, undying loyalty and never leaving the company ever.
Okay.
To the point that anytime a minor like handyman would leave, Alfred would get paranoid and like send spies after them and make sure they weren't giving up secrets.
So this is basically just like signing up for a Verizon plan nowadays.
Yeah, it's like, would you want to give up your freedom in exchange for all your needs being met?
Yeah.
I don't know, kind of.
I was going to say a cult, but I think Verizon's a little more on point.
Yeah. Yeah, the document also creates the first ever industrial snooping campaign where employees are encouraged to spy on other employees, and there's like a whole division of spies in the company that are just to spy at other people. They're still locking the employees inside the factory. That has never stopped, that practice. That's still ongoing with this social program.
It's good. And if they were rats, you can
You have
chew
nothing
your
to
way to
worry
the top.
about if you're loyal to the Krupps. You have nothing to worry about.
Exactly. If you're following step 1 through 10, then us locking you in here, step 11, no problem.
Did the foundry have proper lighted exit signs?
Oh.
In case of some
Exits. Exits.
What? Exit would be into the forge. You just throw
it would
yourself in.
You go from one part to the factory to the other.
He just cloned the factory. And the exit, if it goes on fire, you have to run to the other factory and continue working.
Yeah. A lot of this was also in response to the socialism, which was gaining steam at this point. Alfred is a big hater of all things socialist.
Shout out.
So he's basically lays out laws like you're never going to get hired if you ever partake in a strike, no matter what type of strike it is. So no strike breaking. There was a bunch of newspapers that were banned and things like that. He almost started a uniform thing where they would all wear uniforms that would have like military ranks on them, but within the Krupp employee system. So, but they backed off of that because they're like, no, Alfred, we can't make our own military just yet.
Yeah, it's like North Korea.
Yeah. He's telling his voters how to work. If anyone is found out to have voted for a socialist, they would be fired, and they would lose all that pension and all that healthcare stuff, as would their family, obviously.
It's funny.
Yeah, if you vote for a socialist, you'll lose all those socialist benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's funny because now that we're talking about it, this really does remind me of the Coors family system, and I wonder if, because the Coors family were known to travel back to Germany, they're originally German. I wonder if maybe they got inspired by this guy.
I'm sure they must have been.
Yeah.
Because he's all like I say, he's dictating what they could wear. This led to a bunch of, and they would get fined also. There's always these little fines. So like if you did one thing wrong, you'd get like docked your pay a little bit. My favorite of the anecdotes from this period is one of like the floor managers got fired because his landlady wrapped up his lunch in a newspaper that was prohibited to be on Krupp grounds. And so when he took out his lunch, it was in this newspaper. And they were like, oh, you're fired.
Oh, no.
And now you've lost your pension because your landlady wrapped your sandwich in the New York Times or something.
That happened to me once because I usually used porn magazines as napkins. And I went to work and I was wiping my face with titties, and they're like, that's inappropriate.
I gotta get this ketchup off my face with these two 80s looking women shaving their vaginas.
Can you pass me that Penthouse? I need to blow my nose.
Yeah. That's fun. You know, I gotta say, like, it's very easy to say, oh, this sounds terrible. Like, we're American citizens, and we have our problems with our system here, but this sounds unacceptable. But I know myself. I'm dumb. So if I were to be in the Krupp system, I'd probably love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably be like,
great.
I'd probably be the biggest rat.
What you reading over there? What you doing?
Wait, you're telling me you're providing my health care? Oh, yeah, no. Jimmy over there has been reading the Prof.
I don't know. He just told me about this dream he had the other night, and it sounded pretty real to me. It might be influencing him to think about voting for a socialist.
Yeah.
Let's kill him.
Yeah,
can I use one of those guns, those safety guns?
Can I get the super health insurance if I rat on people?
Yeah. Can I get my teeth done? Does dental come with like 5 ratting outs, or do I need 10 to get dental?
You know what, Mr. Krupp, I read the paperwork. I'm doing this because I am loyal. I want nothing in return for ratting out this fellow who I just yesterday called friend.
I just want some of that good horse shit.
That's
company values, company synergy, company values.
That's right.
Yeah. Big synergy guy. All right, so Alfred now is like, one thing quick. So he's this tyrannical with the office. He's just as tyrannical in his home life because he's got this house with all these corridors and nooks and crannies. It also has a bunch of spy doors where he can see through to other door with things that other people can't. And so guests that were staying at his house would often wake up to notes that he had written them in the dark and like left under their door. Ooh. Where it would be anything is ranging from like a compliment to like your clothes are out of style to one time kicking an unmarried couple out of the house with a note because he saw them kissing. So, like,
oh no!
He wrote them a note. He like saw them kissing one point in the day. Then that night scribbled a note and like shoved it under their door that said like, "Pack your bags and leave at once." Like signed Alfred Krupp. Yeah, no smooching.
I like the out of style bit because isn't he the guy who went to England in an old timey top hat?
Yeah.
Like, hello, I'd like to have tea with you. I'm from Britain also.
Yeah, that one was because people had a habit of wearing black stockings because of the smog, even though it wasn't as bad in like the estate. It was still the industrial area, so they'd wear black stockings, and he's like, white stockings are in right now, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, and they're
like,
you
dummy.
And like they're like, your house is fucking disgusting. Why the hell would I wear white?
Reeks of horse shit. And there's no ventilation.
Do you know if he had like the Scooby-Doo painting? Did he have any artwork up? I'm assuming this is a very minimalist house, but did he have Scooby-Doo paintings where he could look through the eyes and go like, ugh, ugh?
I wouldn't be surprised if he did that. I think he slowly put in artwork, but then when his son takes over, it becomes one of like the great houses of art collection at the time.
Oh, okay.
But with Alfred, not that much.
Yeah, I'm thinking very like minimalist, like those 70s like style buildings where it's just like nothing. It's very boring. Like you want to kill yourself.
Well, again, remember, there's no wood paneling at all. It's all just stone or steel.
Right. I could imagine some of his artwork just being chunks of steel, ingots of sorts. And just like, look at that one. Like a surfboard in the corner in Venice Beach. Look at that.
That one's really heavy.
I had Ron John carved into it. I've never surfed, but I want to feel like I've been somewhere.
I've never seen the ocean, but
I don't care for the ocean. I own several boats, but they're not for me.
Yeah. They're
It's
made
for my
out of
steel.
concrete
For
and
my
steel.
children.
Yeah, my children. And this is my children. Here's a steel leg I had made. Prototype.
Here's my Lexington.
So this is all happening. Alfred's, just tyrannical control over the company and his personal life. This is when he decides to get into politics now. Like I said, fearful of the socialist menace, as he called it. And so he decides to run for the Reichstag elections, which, again, the Reichstag at this point has no real power. So these elections are kind of just for a sham. And he runs. He loses to a member of the Catholic Party, which is still, like, to the left of where he is. Like, he's still pretty far right-wing, but, again, not socialist. Like, it's just a Catholic Party member. And he loses his mind. There's a pretty good chance that he lost because a lot of Krupp workers, when they read his name on the ballot, simply saw Krupp and just thought it was like an imprint on the ballot because everything else in their life had Krupp written on it. So like that was one of the theories as to why they lost, because he didn't campaign. He was like, well, I'm running for a seat in Essen. I'm going to win. I'm not going to tell anyone I'm running. So then when his workers went to vote, they probably were like, oh, these ballots are made by us, obviously. I'm going to vote for this guy.
Right.
That's hilarious.
He's upset. And then in the next series of elections, he puts his son up. So little Fritz, who is like 20, in his like late 20s at this point and has done nothing. He is running for government. He also loses despite heavy campaigning. And both times when they lost the election, it was just their local election. His party won the majority of votes each time and won the majority of the seats each time. But when his son loses, he gets so upset that he sends out orders to demolish the factory on the spot. And is like, we're going to blow it up because we lost. And everyone's like, whoa, we might have lost this one election, but the conservatives still overwhelmingly are controlling the government. And he's like, no, blow it all up. Fuck them all. And this is when he's starting to lose his hold on reality a little.
Well,
Just now?
Little Fritz, I mean, he was running on that platform, make Essen Krupp again. And,
make Essen Krupp.
It's kind of weird that's what he's saying, because it's already very Krupp.
So Alfred, his political dreams are dead, but they were never really his dreams to begin with. Just kind of like a power grab for him. And I mean, even if he won, he probably never would have sat and voted. He would never have wanted to leave the factory for that long. But Germany is on the rise at this point, and Alfred's fortunes continue to rise with it. So much so that he views the German state as his partner, to the point that he continually orders around foreign diplomats as if they're his salesmen. So at one point, his son is in Egypt, and he writes to his son and is like, you need to go to the foreign minister. I'm sending him cannon samples to bring to the Egyptian king or whatever. And the son's like, Dad, that's the German diplomat. And he's like, yeah, no, but he understands. He can send the sales orders back to us. Don't worry.
My God.
It would be like if
dude.
Raytheon is contacting U.S. embassies to sell to other governments. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Wait a minute. Yeah, so he's the first one really doing that. Paving the way for Raytheon and Boeing and all of them.
You hear that, Lockheed? You owe this man a lot of credit.
Yeah, they really do. He's still selling to every other country in the world with the exception of England and France. And he's always going to be sad that he's not selling to England. When the Russo-Turkish War breaks out, both of them are armed with entirely Krupp cannon artilleries. And so when the war ends, Alfred is publishing testimonials from both sides testifying how good the cannons were for them.
Just a bunch of shell-shocked Turkish
Yeah.
dudes. It went really well. We're really glad we had Krupp cannons on our side.
Just when we thought that our Krupp guns were destroying them, we got destroyed too because their Krupp cannons are on their side.
It was a really even fight.
Little Ahmed was crying for his mommy when he heard these cannons.
Yeah.
Cry to your mommy, too.
And again,
By
he's
Krupps.
always cry to your mommy too. That's the motto. And again, he's still claiming that he's always selling other countries inferior guns and he only reserves the best for the Prussians, which is somewhat true in that when he does come up with something new, he'll show it to the Prussians first, but that doesn't mean that the next day he's not sending it also to the Russians. Yeah, he's just always double dealing like this.
I feel like that, yeah, and that's like going back to modern times. I feel like that's just standard fare for modern arms dealers.
Yeah.
They'll probably show the U.S. government first when they're like, I don't know, who wants this? Somali pirates? You want it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah.
Somalia doesn't have any money.
Yeah, well, they get the used stuff, right? They get the bargain bin guns.
They get what they
That's what
steal
Krupp
from
would
other
do.
people.
Yeah.
So this led to some touchy subjects between Alfred and Wilhelm, because Wilhelm is always kind of asking Alfred, like, all right, you saw that we just won a war purely because we had your guns and they didn't. Maybe you should stop selling your guns to everybody. And Alfred responded, no, it's just good business. And if you really wanted me to stop, you can just subsidize my entire factory. And Alfred was like, and the government would always back off and be like, well, we can't do that, so no thanks.
Well, that's where they messed up.
Mm-hmm.
They should have just done that and retired Krupp to work at a Blockbuster.
Yeah.
right?
Just
Wind
like
the
Selfridge.
tapes.
You
Yeah.
should be a fucking bum and we'll arrest you.
So he's also branching out. It's no longer just field cannons. He's also developing like defense batteries, so like coastal defense cannons. He's now making naval batteries, so guns that are designed to be on ships. One time, the German Navy, the Kriegsmarine, is running trials out in the North Sea when a Krupp cannon explodes, sinks one of their boats, and kills 100 sailors. And the Navy is rightfully upset. They're like, hey, can we get a guarantee that this won't happen again? And Alfred goes, no. No way.
No.
You're only allowed to buy from me. I will not guarantee them. So shut up. And they back down. The German Navy was like, okay, we'll back off. Just please give us more Krupp cannon in the future.
That's some balls.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, to be honest, how are you going to guarantee, you know, like the guy could have fucking
Well, I think
loaded
it
the
was
gun wrong or something.
It was like price guarantees. So it'd be like,
Oh,
replace
okay.
them, and if they're defective, you pay the bill. And he was like, no,
Right.
if they're defective, it's your fault. So you
Right.
pay the bill.
Operator error. That's what
Yeah.
Apple
Operator
says.
error. Operator error.
Why are you using lime wires on your iPod? It's gonna crash.
Do you think he did planned obsolescence, maybe? Do you think he, like, he's, like, put a little fissure in the bottom so
Yeah,
it'll
right.
explode eventually?
It's perfectly cast steel except for that one little thing.
Yeah. Alfred has another problem arise at this point. His cannons have become so powerful that he no longer had anywhere in Essen to test them because there was not a range big enough. So what does he do? He finds a plot of land nearby and secures 120 different leases with 120 different farmers whose property all touch, and then builds a firing range on this property.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
would do that if I had Krupp money.
Dude,
There are like 3 major roads that go through the property that people use every day. And so whenever he had to do test firing, he would just shut down the roadways, which was completely illegal. But there was no one that was going to stop him because there's like armed Krupp guards at the entrance to the roads.
I'm just imagining these Krupp guards armed with like tiny cannons. Like they don't have regular guns; they just have like tiny little cannons.
None of them have rifles. They just all have like a 2-inch like artillery set.
Watch out, boys!
And this becomes his new favorite playground. It's a massive, massive facility. He builds watchtowers. He builds bunkers that are like furnished as if they're for royalty, because they are. This is where he's going to start entertaining like the heads of state from various countries. So like just picture like you're going into an underground bunker with like beautiful carpeting, and there's like cognac tables, and there's a waiter staff in black ties. And then you peer out a little slit where they're just firing like 80 millimeter howitzers over your head.
It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I
Pretty
honestly-
sweet. It sounds awesome.
It does sound awesome. It reminds me
Yeah.
of that scene in Naked Gun 33 1/3, where they're down, and Nicole Smith's down there with Leslie Nielsen in the bomb shelter, and they see the envelope pulling out, and they're like, hanging out. Imagine that, but like someone's pouring you whiskey, and you're wearing really nice clothing, and that would be so much fun.
Yeah. He holds a bunch of different, I'll just call them galas because there's not really a better word for it, where he invites either the head of state or like the military staff from all these different countries, and is like, I'm going to put on a display, we're going to eat caviar, and we're going to watch my cannons blow shit up. And then you're going to buy them because I'll just have order sheets ready to be filled out. And this always bothered the Prussian military staff because they would go and they were like, yeah, we're fellow Prussians, but everyone would either be speaking English or Italian or French. No one ever spoke German at these things, even though it was in Germany and it was a German firm and he supplied the German military machine. Yeah, no, we got to speak French.
Right. Kind of like how we're just going to only speak Chinese in about 10 years.
I mean, just get ahead of it. Start thinking.
Ni hao ma, boys.
Get your Duolingo account running.
Yeah. This is when he starts to really make weird stuff. He is coming up with a plan for what he calls floating island guns, where he wants to build a gun battery that's like self-sufficient on the water and just could float to an enemy shore, bomb it, and then drift away with the tide.
Was that called a boat?
That's what everyone's like, you mean a boat? And he's like, no. Floating island cannon.
Yeah, it seems like you're like, yeah, I'm just going to drop this cannon on a barge.
Yeah.
Because it floats away with the tide. There's like no motor.
It's just like it floats in and it floats out.
All right.
And then we pick them all up when they're out of range of the batteries and then we sail away. Then he also comes up with, like PT gunboats in World War II.
I mean, a PT cruiser?
Exactly, yeah. That's what a PT cruiser.
Yeah.
Picture a PT cruiser with like a small cannon in the back, and just like
okay.
These are things that are going to happen in World War II.
I think that image is too dangerous because the PT Cruiser is already probably the most excellent, pleasing looking car that you just put a gun on it. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's why you don't see them on the road so much anymore because people are always taking those double takes and then crashing into people,
rubbernecking.
Yeah, they're always crashing into the people in front of them who have stopped to look at the PT Cruiser. Dangerous.
What PT boats are is like these small little gunboats in World War II that like can fly in with like a lot of maneuverability and they have a pretty big gun. And in World War II, it's easy to make, but back then the cannons were so big and had such big recoil that if you put it on a small boat like this, it would capsize the boat immediately if it fired. So Alfred's plan to get around this was it would be like a Darth Maul style twin cannon where you fire both at the same time to cancel out the recoil. So one, you'd aim at the target, and the other, it just hope no one's behind you. That way you could balance out the recoil.
Yeah, the battleship behind you that you just deploy from.
Exactly. Just make sure they're out of range, and then shoot the front gun. Yeah. Then he also starts coming up with this idea for an armored gun, where it'd be like an artillery piece that would be surrounded by a dome of steel. Almost like a tank before there were tanks, so that you could put them in range of the enemy artillery and it wouldn't matter because your gun could keep firing.
Oh, shit.
No one wanted this. No government wanted this. All of them were like, that's stupid. We're never going to make this. Why would we do that? And he's like, no, it's going to work. It's going to work. And he builds it and no one wants to test it. So then he volunteers to sit inside it and have his own guns shoot at him at one of these galas, and they do it. So he's just sitting in this like cannon as it's being bombed by his own staff, and then he walks out and he's like, "Look, I'm fine. See, what did I tell you?" No one bought the gun.
Really? I mean, that
sounds like this is
so
so unnecessary. Why?
That sounds so smart. That's like one of the first things they try to blow up is artillery.
Yeah, but then eventually his grandson and his descendants, they're going to be building Panzers and Tiger tanks. So they eventually figure out this idea of an armored gun.
Gotcha.
Now we're coming to the end of Alfred's life, and this whole time we talked about Bertha. She's always been a side figure. She ran away from Essen to the south of France, never wanted to be around him. They eventually have a massive falling out. Because in 1882, little Fritz is now 27, and he wants to marry this girl, Baroness Marguerite von End. Alfred does not like her. He thinks she's just this dumb country broad that is not fit for the son of the wealthiest man in all of Europe.
Is he wrong?
No, not really. She's kind of a strange character, but it was just like a very poor royal family still.
All right.
And he was like, no, that's not acceptable.
She uses Hess gas stations, is what you're saying. Okay.
Well, I mean, the thing is, has he seen her in a dirndl? You know what I'm saying? Whoa.
Alfred hasn't time for that. He hasn't seen his own wife's figure in such a long time.
In decades.
Yeah. Now they're having a falling out.
Yeah.
Now he's
So
losing his
now
mind.
they're having trouble. Yeah.
He's always one-upping himself. He's a layer cake of insanity.
The paperwork came back. Are we having a fallout? Yes.
Yes.
Circled.
Am I losing my mind? Yes. But it is the true falling out because once they have this fight, Bertha orders all of her belongings in the house packed up. She leaves via Hugel, and the two would never see each other again. This was it.
Aww.
Yeah. Alfred would try to make amends with her. He'd still be writing her letters. He allowed his son to marry this girl and then had a big wedding reception, but the two would never speak again.
She was just looking for an excuse, Bertha.
Yeah.
I think she was finally like, all right, I'm out of here. Like,
she's already locked into the deal. Like, they've been married for long enough. They're never going to make a case where she's not going to come out of this loaded.
Yeah.
So just go away.
Yeah.
So
good for her.
Yeah, right. Good for her.
Yeah.
I think she's the smartest character I've come across in this family story.
Yeah.
In the 1880s, Alfred is now spending very little of his time in the factory floor, which was what he always felt was his favorite place to be. He's spending more time at the estate, just kind of scribbling away notes, writing all these little intricate orders, and trying to control everything from his estate. His son, Fritz, is now kind of taking over a lot of it, and we even reach a point where Fritz writes a letter to the board of directors, basically, and says, ignore everything coming from my dad. Like, he's lost his mind completely. So now Alfred is just cramped in his little estate, huffing all this horse shit, writing orders and designing plans for things that'll never happen.
Oh, you mean he's in heaven?
Oh, yeah. He's loving this part.
He's like a pig in horse shit. A German in horse shit.
He's a German in horse shit. He's kind of withering away. He's always been a gaunt figure. Now he's starting to get sickly. And dear Alfred, on July 13th, 1887, suffers a heart attack, and he dies 24 hours later. However, that would not be the end of his control over the lives of the people of Essen, because he had planned out his funeral. Obviously.
Smart.
Yeah. He lay in state in the main hall of Essen Castle for 3 days, where the entire city would walk by and mourn him. It was transferred back to the Stammhaus, which is the name for the cottage that his father had died in. Remember I said he'd preserved it and would move it whenever he needed to, but always keep it in that state. It was brought back there, the same place where his father had had his funeral 60 years earlier.
Connor, wait. Was he told to be shot out of one of his cannons? Is this the ultimate? Just put me in one of the cannons, shoot me into the moon.
You really have a good feel for this guy's life, Travis. He didn't do exactly that. However, the carriage that took his body to all these different places was a gun carriage. So it was like the wheels of a, like the coffin was in the place where the barrel would be.
Gotcha.
So it looked like an artillery piece being wielded around.
Steel coffin?
No, it's not a steel coffin. Should have been.
Yeah, really. Like, of all the steel, you're making all these ingots. Why not just do something fun?
They put him, just as a big fuck you, they put him in a wood coffin.
Yeah, that was on fire.
Yeah.
So he was brought to the family plot in the cemetery where he was buried, but that is not where he would rest, because Essen continued to expand, and his body moved at least 4 or 5 times as the cemeteries continually got pushed further and further out of the city center. And it wasn't until 1956 when his Nazi great-grandson, who shared his name, Alfred, built a new family estate and built a series of crypts for all of the family members, including his own brothers, his father, his mother, and the biggest of the sepulchers and basically tombs of this area was for our friend Alfred Krupp, that looked over the rest of the family burial ground in a 20-foot high tomb with bronze figures adorned by marble. No steel.
Bronze?
Yeah, bronze. Come on.
Jeez. What's up with these... hold on, before we totally wrap up, what's up with these German city planners that had to move the body 4 fucking times? Aren't these people...
It was a train station. The first one was a train station.
The first one's... Okay, it's you do it once. All right, we had to sort this out. By time number 2, it's just are we even German anymore?
Maybe we should just go, or just move it all the way. Like,
Yeah.
why? It seemed like they moved it like 2 blocks. Like, just push it a little further.
Yeah,
Push
right.
it a little further.
Yeah, a few miles, kilometers.
Yeah.
However, you're like
Yeah.
half an Autobahn away. Just get it out of here. We're going to keep building. We're industrious, are we not?
Well, I feel like we covered somebody. It was somebody on the Mississippi, and I mean, like, this is a different problem. But they built their graveyard along the shores or something, and it kept like eroding back, and all the bodies would flood in.
Oh, yeah. I think
people
that happened to New Orleans, too.
Yeah,
where
people
it's-
need to think, wow, we're gonna put these dead bodies here. Like, come on, if you're gonna expand, if you're near a river, God, think about this.
Well, yeah, like ocean level cemeteries are typically like those above ground ones. Like in Louisiana, like the poor people, they really didn't know what to do with their bodies because they weren't able to get the above ground ones. So they would bury them, and then those are the ones coming out. The rich people figured out that like you have those big stone joints, and you put the bodies in there above sea level.
Well, that's what his Nazi great grandson eventually figured out.
Hey, just
Built it big.
as I've always said, Nazis and people from Louisiana, they're exactly the same.
Yeah.
Check out
They don't know how to bury bodies.
Yeah.
Check out our Dimebag Daryl episode to hear about that.
So sorry to cut you off at the end there, but I want to talk
No.
about that because
It's all right.
I found it weird that they had to move him that many times.
Yeah, right.
And it was always just like a little bit. Just a little bit further. A little bit further.
Yeah, stupid.
And thus ended Alfred Krupp.
Oh, this boy! Wow. Thank you for bringing him in. What a maniac!
We were talking about it behind the scenes, but we're probably going to see more of the Krupps. Probably going to see more of this wild and wacky family.
Yeah,
Well,
keep
you-
rolling on these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because soon they're going to just own straight up slaves.
Yeah, well,
They went from creating the modern pension system to just owning slave labor.
guess what? Spoiler alert: Germany goes through a little transformation. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for the latest in Germany.
Yeah.
It's very
Germany,
aggressive.
what are they up to next?
Yeah. Germany goes to war again, and then
Let's
again.
start a film series,
again.
like an old timey Germany goes to war the first time. Well,
Wonder what'll happen if there's another time.
Yeah.
it's just going to keep happening. Anyway, they're a peaceful place now, and I think they're all very sorry for what they've done. So,
Well, the Krupps are still in business, so you can go find them.
well, I'm not sure if they're sorry about what they've done, but I'm talking about the
I
other
don't
ones.
think so. No, not at all.
Nah, what's to be sorry for? You've made a growing industry out of
I don't
selling
think-
garbage guns to places like India and Bangladesh, which is in
Lockheed
India.
Martin isn't sorry.
Yeah,
They shouldn't
no.
be either.
They're not guns, Tom. They're children. They're giving children to the world.
I think they got enough children over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy's great. Loved it.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go to a stable and see if I get smarter.
Try it out. I think we should all give it a try in the next couple of weeks. Just see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
Gonna
most of
get
the
a
most of the
heaping
horse
scent
girls
of
I've ever
horseshit.
talked to are either smart or crazy. So,
Yeah.
Well, Alfred, smart and crazy. So there you go.
all right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to this morning edition of a part tour.
Yeah, this is like that morning, what, Good Morning America or whatever, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
this is
Sunday
the
morning, the one that's like.
like.
Yeah, it's daytime television. This is The View. We all shaved our vaginas and showed up here happy and caffeinated. And my God, did we learn something. That's important. And we're here together. Okay?
Yeah.
All far away. So, roastmortem.com. No, do we have that up?
Yeah,
Roastmortemcast?
roastmortemcast.com for
Okay.
all of our things. And then just check us out on social medias.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
And Tom is going to be going into a cocoon and emerge as a new Tom in a couple episodes.
We have a new boy.
Yeah, new boy. Just like you could hear my new boy voice at the very beginning of this series. I sounded completely different.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Shane, for listening.
Dankum chains.
Krupp.
Ruh.
Krupp.